Thursday about at 7:30, 21st start at 4. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It's questions are 4.
Taking a moment.
I just noticed your shirt form is with us.
It's for the Wilkinson dance.
It's
Because
like
we're
a-
doing a Star Wars dance.
It's just like Amanda's gonna make me their
Yeah.
you don't need the second like a concert.
You don't need one that says a second.
Oh, I didn't know this was yeah, now I know, but I didn't see it.
Yes. You know what? She stole my
Oh, that makes sense.
Do I need to sign anything on for me? No. Yeah. Do I need to print this out for you or? Right.
Everybody at this. What's the Yeah, or her. That's interesting. Yeah, this here.
Do you need a table? You want a table?
No.
Am I gonna block your way if I sit here? Okay.
The boys are. Here's Bill. Bill's over here.
I asked to turn off the fan because it's just so loud. Yeah, I just. You want them on? I can. Okay. You know, tell her leave it on. Leave it on. Okay. worry about me. I mean, in terms of being loud. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, well, this is Dr. Green from MASD. We talked a little bit about training, so what we're hoping is this is one of many that they'll support us on.
well, I appreciate meeting you guys. My name's Rod Green. So just tell me just a little bit about you. Go around and introduce yourselves. I know we did already, but just tell me how long you've been on the board. So, Bill?
I'll start. I've been sitting in this board since May of 2011.
Okay. Beth?
I've only been on the board for 13 months.
Okay, a little over a year. Bart?
The same as Beth.
Okay.
We were elected at the last election. So we've been on it about a little over a year.
Okay, Mark? Oh, just a couple months, so you're brand new? Okay, Gloria?
Just a little over a year, treasurer.
Okay.
A little over a year as well.
And Dad? No. Debbie? And Mark?
About 3 years.
Okay. Well, nice to meet you guys.
Can I?
Yes.
Can you judge real quick? Do you mind this presentation? Can you send that to me so I can print it out so they can have something physically to follow along with them?
Yeah. I mean, can you print it from here? 'Cause
I could send it to me and then
Yeah,
I'll print
yeah,
it if you don't
perfect.
mind. That way I can have some.
Yeah. Hard copy. Yeah, that's fine. So I was just gonna start by saying that I'm a consultant with MASB, and I've been working with school districts around the state here for about the last 6 or 7 years. And prior to that, I was a superintendent. So I was superintendent for 24 years, and mainly East China was my longest stint, almost 13 years, and I retired out of there in 2012. So since that, I've been kind of doing these kinds of workshops, training for boards, and I also do strategic planning and superintendent searches and different things like that. So basically, MASB called me and said that Angel had requested some training, and so thought that I would be a good fit for some of the things that you want to talk about. So I've got a presentation here today on what we would call board governance and kind of roles and relations, and you can kind of morph it into different other things. So I've got various things involved with it, including some parliamentary procedure type things, and Open Meetings Act, and the different roles of superintendent compared to board. So we will make a copy for you. I apologize for not thinking about that. And, we have that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I covered.
Sherman's password and everything else. I went over to the other building. Is that the board office or not? Is that the board office? Okay, yeah, so I went in there, it was like, what's the same company?
No, that's 26550.
So I just pulled that and figured it. Right, yeah. Well, I'm still not retired, but yeah, I retired out of East China is when I started. Yeah. I was 12 years at China, St. Clair, lived in St. Clair. And, you know, we enjoyed it there. It was, you know, 2 high schools, a lot of different things to do. Yeah, Marines are in St. Clair. Always the rivalry there, but they're still doing pretty good. All the smoke and the ship and oh, they didn't like it. They didn't like that. Sure. No, that Marine City, they have this quite the program there. They were undefeated again this year until they got beat in the playoffs. Start selling. Very good. He did. He did. Yeah, he was. They always had such a good program. Oh, there's trouble. Yeah, that would have been right in the playoffs, right?
No.
Oh, were they? I'm trying here, I'm not local. Yeah.
Yes, we can print out.
Okay, we're good. He's gonna print it and we'll get started and then he'll come out. Okay. So he's gonna print it out for you. We'll get started, and then you'll be able to catch up with us. But first thing I want to just ask, I guess, I mean, we've kind of done the introductions, but what do you think the purpose of the board is? What do you think some of the functions of the board?
Set policy.
Okay, set policy.
Governance.
Okay. Anyone else?
Set goals and,
Right.
superintendent.
Yes. Anything else come to mind? How about superintendent? What's the superintendent do? Runs the district, everything else.
He's our one employee.
One employee, yes.
True. That is true. That is true.
Let me ask you a couple other questions to get this thing kind of kicked off. So trustees of the district or representatives of the people? Or both? It's both. It's both. What's the difference between the two? So trustees of something is like you're kind of entrusted, right? To run, I mean, to have the whole thing. Like if you were a trustee of an estate, you're kind of, you know, you're in charge of the estate. So you're trustees of the whole district. But you're also representing people. So there's people here, so you represent them, you represent others. Okay. So do you have a role in running the district? And the answer really is no. You're the governing board. So you don't really do the day-to-day stuff. And that's a little tricky. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we go. But you're the governance board. So he's the day-to-day. That's kind of the rule of that. Now how do you delegate and hold people accountable? So you've got these reporting protocols. So you want the superintendent to report out to you on various things that are going on in the district. So every month, you have board meetings, right? He would report. And you would have monitoring schedules. So let's say you had a strategic plan or you had goals. You would have reports at certain times to hear how those progress on those goals is going. And then you would adjust if you need to. So that's how you kind of hold him accountable for doing the work that you expect. What about board committees? Do you have board committees
Right now, we're acting as a committee.
of the whole? Okay. Have you had them in the past? Some long-term people? So what I was going to say about board committees is there is a little danger sometimes in doing board committees, and you can expect what I'm going to say. Some people are more informed about something than others, right? And so you feel like finance committee, there's 3 people, and they know more about it than the other 4, and so there's conflict. So committee of the whole is really a nice way to go. So if you're doing committee of the whole, I like that. The other thing that happens with board committees is sometimes they get into administration. So this is Angel, in thinking about if you had board committees, Angel, you want to keep them working on board stuff. So like, for example, policy. So you mentioned policy. So yeah, there's a lot of times there's a policy committee. And so the policy committee works on the policies and then they come to the whole board. That's the process for committees. So same thing with committee of the whole. You're going to have committee, you're going to have some committee work going on, and it should be stuff that the board is working on, not things like, you know, what are the lunch ladies' hours, or you know, tell us about the bus routes, and should we have another stop over here? You know, that's not board work, right? You follow what I'm talking about? So you want to be making sure your committee work, even the committee of the whole, is board level work. So that's the danger what happens there. So obviously the board is providing oversight and management, oversight of management for the organization. So your job is to oversee what management is doing. And so then that begs the question of micromanagement. So how would you define micromanagement? If you thought about micromanagement, what would anyone say? No wrong answers.
Constantly calling the supervisor to tell them to do things.
Okay, that would be bad. Yes, I agree.
The superintendent.
That's micromanagement. What else? Anything come to mind?
Day-to-day.
Yeah, just getting involved in the day-to-day. I mean, basically, it's kind of getting out of your role and getting into someone else's role. What it does. So a couple of districts that I've worked with, what has happened is people get so used to the board member involvement that they don't talk to the principal and the superintendent. They just talk to a board member. And they go right around the chain and say, hey, I want to go to this conference, what do you think? And then the board member says, yeah, I'll make sure that happens. And all of a sudden you're leaving out the supervisors, which is, it's not a good organizational structure. I mean, I get the fact that sometimes people don't like their supervisor or something like that, but it's important for you as the governing board to have a good structure so that the work actually can get done. That's what I would say. Any comments or questions about that? This is kind of a little bit intro.
On this page,
Yeah,
I talk about goals. Do you want that for,
goals?
yeah, you mentioned goals.
Yes. So let's go, I think I've got that right here. Mary, look at that. Ha, without even a sheet to look ahead. See, that's the thing. So yes, goal setting. Bill, you mentioned it. That's absolutely one of the board's roles is goal setting. So do you have goals that you've set?
No.
Not yet. Okay. So that's something you could work toward with your new superintendent, right? So Angel, how long have you been on board? 1 year?
1 year.
Almost 1 year.
When should a board have goals? Is it yearly? Is it, like, we've all worked together for a year now. Should there have been some goals to work on?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably time now to start thinking about goals, and a good time to do it might be in the summer. I mean, when you've got a little more time, you can spend a little time together. But it is a board function to adopt the goals for the district. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have input. So you might have input from people that are in the audience, you might have input from your administrators, certainly you're going to have input from your superintendent. But overall, the goals ultimately are adopted by the board. The board is the ones that sets the direction. Now, policy, you know about policy. Everyone knows about policy. So that's yours. Hiring the superintendent, evaluating the superintendent. That's yours, right? Everyone knows that. Budget. You didn't mention budget, but budget is yours. Now, remember, you're not developing the budget, but you are approving the budget. So I'm going to show you the differences between some of these in just a second. Curriculum. Overall, the program is yours. So this means, like, for example, if you were going to change some major thing at the high school, you're going to bounce that off the board. You know, if you're going to change the reading program, third grade reading, all this stuff that's going on, and you guys are working on something, you're not going to just adopt something without the board. So that's the board. All the contracts in the district, all the contracts, all the collective bargaining agreements, all of that stuff is ultimately approved by the board. You're required by law to approve all professional appointments. So teachers, directors, principals, superintendent, you have to appoint those people. Now, support staff, you can delegate to the superintendent. The superintendent can appoint those people and inform you. But there's certain things that you're required to do. You're required to approve all contracts, all collective bargaining agreements, and set those salaries. There really shouldn't be anybody that's paid in the district without approval from the board in some fashion, even substitutes. So you've got substitutes, that's $100 a day. You give that to the board as these are the rates for our substitutes. This is substitute aides, this is substitute teachers. You've got this list of unaffiliated people. The board approves that rate, then your payroll department pays the people. So there's rules about how this stuff is supposed to work.
While we're on that,
Yeah.
wasn't there just a change made to the sub-pay recently? That's what I've kind of heard, but I haven't heard it. Is it going to change? in the
Yeah.
last few weeks?
Yeah, so it was 95. We were told when I was administrator it was 115, but it was never, so we adjusted.
So this is a training session. We're not trying to get anybody here. There's things that I'm going to tell that you will not know. I've done this work for 30 years, and I know a lot of stuff, and I'm going to say a lot of things. But I want you to know that there's things that are better procedures than others, and just things like sub-pay. Yeah, people approve sub-pay, and it isn't done. I mean, well, what I would say is that to do really solid procedures, every year you want to review those things and then run them by the board. So, so the unaffiliated people, I used to have a sheet that I would do. You know, aides, I mean, we have people that weren't in unions, right? So it's the people that aren't in unions, you put those people down and you give it to the board. And you make sure that it's approved. I mean, that's just part of protocol. Now, facilities is also the board. So if you're getting ready to do a bond issue, you're going to do a sinking fund, you're going to get the board approval. You know that. And then community relations is a board function. You are the liaison between the community and the district. The board is in the middle. So you're listening to the community and you're overseeing the district and you're the liaison between those two. And that's part of your function. Now let me show you how it relates to the superintendent, just for a second here. So this is what you were asking, and it's Beth, right? So Beth was saying, all right, so how do we do this, or when do we do this? The superintendent is going to assist and advise you on the goals. So this is the role of superintendent. So again, you're thinking about this stuff. So you've been on board a year now. You guys got your feet wet. You're making some changes. So hey, it's a good time to maybe think about setting some goals. Perfect. So then you might talk to somebody like me. We talk about a process. How are you going to involve the board? How are you going to involve people? And then you work it out, and then you help the board. The board ultimately approves it, but your job is to assist and advise. Same thing with policy. You're not doing policies, hopefully, just in isolation on your own. I mean, you've got like Neola or Lusk and Albertson, or somebody is giving you advice, right, on policies. then you look them over and you give them to the board, right? And then the board, you review them, and then you approve. That's how that process works. Now, of course, this third one is all the day-to-day stuff. That's the superintendent's job. So obviously it's 24/7. We expect you to be on board. You know, what did we text each other at 7 o'clock in the morning the other day? You know, you're just working all the time. I mean, that's just the way it works. The budget, same thing. You are not doing the budget yourselves. You've got a business manager, you've got the superintendent, you're reviewing it, then it gets presented to you. Does this make sense? Ask me anything. Any questions? Comments so far? And the same thing for the rest of this stuff. The curriculum, you are advising the board. The contracts, the personnel, you are advising, recommending. The facilities, you are advising, analyzing, recommending. Community relations, you are providing input to the stakeholders, you're providing information, you're trying to do two-way communication, all of that stuff. And so you're helping the board with that. So basically, you guys' roles are kind of like joined at the hip. You have certain roles that you approve, he has certain roles that he recommends, and you work together. That's the whole idea of the board and superintendent relationship. That's the summary, okay. Keep going. All right, so this is the MASB board clock. Have you seen this before? Bill, you've been around, you? No, this is, all right, so check this out. So that's the board authority on the top. And then this is the superintendent's authority on the bottom. So theoretically, the way it's supposed to work, you adopt the vision and goals. Then you adopt policies, of course, that help you further that. Angel, you develop plans and regulations and procedures and strategies to meet the goals. Then you implement. Then you evaluate progress. And then the board evaluates the results. I mean, that's the theoretical way that the board and superintendent work together to govern a district. Does that make sense? I mean, it's kind of, it's a little hokey, I admit, because you can't, your policies, you've got all kinds of, you got hundreds of policies already. But if your vision and goals happen to require a change in policy, that's the order that you do. Questions on that?
There's really no questions, but do we think this is how this board operates? And it should. I don't see anything.
Well, I mean, this is, all right, so we're going to keep going, and we'll evaluate ourselves in a little bit. But
So can I ask, so I recommended that we review, one of my goals that I recommended to the board is these policies are old, right? So they're from 2008, 2011. So I recommended that we review, and we went through the process. Now we're working on policy that I'm going to present to them. That's what you mean by that the adoption of the policies coincide with the initial goals that we set.
yeah, so that's, yes, in theory, this is more like, let's say your vision was third grade reading was going to improve, okay? So what kinds of policies would you need to do that? It might be, it's not the policies in the way that you're thinking about that. It's more of, well, we need an instructional coach. We're going to do some additional, we're going to reduce class size. So you've set the goal, the vision, and then now you've got the board to adopt the policies that are going to help you reach that vision. Then you are down here developing, how am I going to get these people trained? How am I going to get them, on top of things? What kind of curriculum are we putting in there? Then you're implementing, and then you're evaluating, and then they're evaluating. That's the theory kind of it. But the example that you offered is, yeah, that's great. To improve your policies or to update your policies is a good goal. And so now you've got a process for doing that, and so you're starting to do it. Are you going to do them in chunks, or are you doing them all together?
In chunks.
In chunks, perfect. So it's probably a year-long process, at least. Yeah, so that's great. And that's a good project. That's like a goal, and it's good for the board to do that, especially when you're new, because you're learning them all. And as you do it too, you involve your staff, your administrators, tell them, hey, these are the policies we're doing, and then if you're making big changes at all, if they're just minor changes, you're good. If they're big changes, you need to roll them out. All right, let's keep going, and then we'll get to what Bill was talking about. So this is essentially another way to look at it. When you think about how the board and superintendent work together, the board is more concerned with the end results, the superintendent is more concerned with the means. And so the board is asking questions like what, why, how much, the superintendent is asking how, when, who, you know, those kinds of things. The superintendent is working on strategies, procedures for implementing, whereas the board is more concerned is this hitting our mission? Is this kind of part of our vision? You know, those are the kinds of thoughts that are in the board's mind, more of the oversight thoughts. And then ultimately, of course, board members vote on things, superintendents recommend things. And you build this relationship on trust. So you're trying to, you know, Angel, and as Angel is new, you know, he's learning the ropes and learning how to react and do things with you. Some of you are new as well, and you're learning together. So if you can kind of keep yourself in these different roles, like, and here's the big thing that I guess I would say, the big takeaway of this is the what and the how. So the board is more concerned with the what, and then the superintendent would be concerned with the how do we do it. So like the what could be, you know, could be again, third grade reading. So the board has had a discussion about it, you guys have talked about it, it's like, hey, we want to reduce our potential kids that will be retained under this third grade reading law. That's the what. We want that reduced. So then you guys talk about this, and then it turns over to him. How are we going to do it? So, all right, we're going to get an instructional coach. We're going to make sure our class sizes are good. We've got this new curriculum. You've got your basic strategies of how you're going to do it. Does that make sense? That's how that would work. Now, does the board ever do the how? Does the board ever do the how? Not really. No, the board should not do the how. But what if you're dissatisfied with the how? What if you're dissatisfied? You don't think he's got enough stuff in the how. So then you throw it back to him and you say, hey, put some more stuff in there. Bring us back something else. Work with your team. Let's see a little more robust strategies. You see what I mean? You always toss it back to him and get that where you're comfortable. So you're not a king where you decide everything with the how. You're like a prince where you've got the board still overseeing you on the how, if that makes sense. So you've decided the what, and now you're doing the how, but you bounce it off of the board and you say, hey, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. Okay, that sounds good. Tell us when you've got some results. We want to see them. You know, and a couple months later, then you report back and you give them the results. And then you like them or you don't like them. If the results aren't good, then you say, hey, maybe we need some more strategies. Develop the how again. And it's that back and forth between the oversight and the management. If that makes sense. So when you talk about doing goals, ultimately the board will approve the goals. And then the board will hold the administration accountable for developing action plans and strategies to reach those goals, objectives, systems. And then you are asking, the next step is the monitoring of it. It's the reporting out. And that's where you and the board have to decide on, okay, so we've got these goals now. So is once every 3 months pretty good, or should I report on one goal every month? Well, how do you want to do this reporting mechanism? And so you guys get this comfort level of what is he reporting out on for your goals. That's what you're looking for. Now on your management, Angel, you have to hold your subordinates accountable. And you have to develop procedures, good procedures for things. So if you don't hold your subordinates accountable, eventually they will end up coming to the board. I mean, the situations will come to the board because you're, like, for example, I had a situation where there was an appeal that wasn't done properly. So the parent ends up in my office. And so I end up saying, hey, to to the principal, did you do the appeal process? And the principal says, no, I just backed the assistant principal. Well, that's not gonna help. You see what I mean? The principal needs to sit down with that parent, listen to both sides of the story. This is what the AP says, this is what the parent says. Okay, I'll get back with you. And then make a good decision and then get back to the person. Then maybe it's not gonna be at my level. See what I mean? So you're trying to get good procedures, good process for all of your subordinates. Questions? Bill, does that make sense, everyone? For you? So this is what I would say about management systems, Angel. This is where I would like the board to be more concerned about the effectiveness of the system than the individual decision. Now, I want to give you an example. So you've probably hired some people since you've been superintendent. You guys have hired some teachers or some coaches, whatever you've done. When you hire teachers, you probably get the name on a sheet, but you don't meet the person. Is that right? But you approve it. So how do you feel comfortable in approving someone you've never met? It's because of the system. It's because you have put in place, hey, we're going to post these positions. We're going to have an interview committee. We're going to check their references. We're going to make them teach a lesson, whatever your system is, right? And you're telling the board along the way that this is the system that we have for hiring. And so then when the board gets this name, they feel comfortable in approving the person. Is that, would you say that's how it goes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of trust for our superintendent.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, that's his job. But you have to approve it, so there's this combination of how you work together. So you develop systems. Another example for me was in my district of East China, I had like 12 facilities, right? And so I'm a new superintendent, and one of my brand new buildings has got a grass that's a foot high. And so I'm driving by there and I'm saying to myself, what is the deal? So I call my operations guy and I don't say go over and cut St. Clair Middle. I say to him, tell me about the system for keeping the grass cut in the summer. What do we do? He says, what are you talking about? I said, give me the whole system. What do you do? He says, well, we have one guy who drives the truck around, he's got a couple of tractors, takes him 40 hours a week to do all of the facilities. Okay, great. So how is it that one facility has grass that's a foot high? Oh, well, that's easy. He's been on vacation for 3 weeks. Oh, well, now tell me about the system for keeping the grass cut when our guy is on vacation. Oh, that's easy. We don't have one. Okay, now I'm down to the root of the problem. He says to me, our priority has always been the inside of the buildings in the summer. I'm like, I want to change that paradigm. Because we got schools of choice, we got Catholic schools. I want people to realize that our schools are top notch even in the summer. So we need to keep these lawns cut. Okay, no problem. 12 years later, I never had to ask about the lawns because we had a system in place. And that's what I'm talking about for you and the board, is always asking systematic questions. Questions that get to the root of the problem. When your rooms are cold, what's the system for teachers reporting that their room is cold? How do you do this work? That's what you're looking for at this level, system. So obviously, Angel, one of your big jobs is keeping the board informed, obviously, if problems are arising, but developing effective systems to run the district. That is really your role. And so your job is to hold him accountable to do that. Does that make sense? I know it's all theory, but that's the idea.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, since the superintendent must keep his board informed, what if you have an ongoing problem? How often should we be told what is happening?
Well, I guess it probably depends on the problem, so it's hard to say, but I guess the answer I would say is often as you feel it's needed. So that's a communication thing between you and the superintendent. Like, if there's ongoing things and the board is concerned, then you're going to want to keep them abreast of the situation. And it's not really a power struggle, it's just a matter of, how serious of the problem it is. Some problems are not as serious, so they're they're able to be handled, and the board has to just say, hey, the superintendent's handling that, you know. But other problems are more serious and might need ongoing communication.
Should we be talking monthly or?
Yeah, I think if there's updates that are valuable, then I would do the updates when they're available. You know, if we know it's a major thing. Like if we have a lawsuit, for example, that's pretty major. So now we've been served, so I tell the board about that. We're going to be meeting with the lawyers, and then once we meet with the lawyers, we got an update. Then I might tell the board about the update, and then we meet again. And if there was a court date, I mean, there might be various milestones that you would kind of keep the board abreast if it's this major thing. If it's like a 5-day suspension for a kid, you know, you tell the board one time, and then you're kind of like, hey, that situation is handled. You know. Yes.
Well, I was gonna say, it's not just a problem. And I do understand that each of us, we all understand that, well, you know, it's a year in, it's been a district for some time. So I don't think that anyone sitting up here at this table can tell you the process, what is even close to the process for hiring someone, or creating a position, or terminating, eliminating a position. We have no.
Okay, well, that's something that can be learned and talked about, but basically, normally, you're going to, administration is going to, when you're creating positions, you know, you're gonna get approval from the board. You're gonna decide what you need.
Was this known prior to me taking over? Did you know you've been on the board 11 years?
Yes.
You knew?
No, I did not know the hiring process.
Okay, so,
Yeah. You don't have to take this all personally.
No, I'm trying to absorb it all
As
in.
a board.
Yeah, just
But I am
process.
saying, we knew that you could, that
So what?
a superintendent could
What now?
not create positions or eliminate positions without board approval. I do that.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say the superintendent should not be creating or eliminating positions without board approval. I think that's fair. And so generally in the districts that I work in now, and then when I was a superintendent, you know, if we had, let's say for example, the enrollment was increasing at the elementary school, we were going to add a 3rd grade section. That was just told to the board in informational, like, hey, enrollments, you know, last year we were at 75 in 3rd grade, this year we're going to be at 90, so, you know, we're going to go with 4 teachers instead of 3, something like that. You know, that was not probably as big a deal as if you're creating a program. So that's one of the things you have to decide as a board. If it's enrollment situations, is that okay to let the superintendent administer that and tell us what's happening? But you should certainly tell them what's happening. But I don't think I would create a new program like we're gonna offer German now at the high school, and so it's gonna be one position, and we already posted it. I think that would be a conversation you want to have with the board, like, hey, we'd like to offer German. Is the board okay with that? That will cost us 1 additional person. So there is some give and take on that stuff, but it has to be decided between the group of what you feel comfortable with. Like when I was in East China, we were making cuts. So we lost about 100 students a year on our enrollment. And so every year I was going in front of the board with, you know, $2 million worth of cuts. You know, and so we got 3 elementary positions, 3 middle school positions, 5 high school positions, you know, social worker, counselor. You know, we'd have all of this list, and I would get board approval before we put the budget together that year for that stuff, because it was such major stuff. In the same token, I think if we were adding 3 elementaries, 3 middle schools, you know, I think we would want to tell the board that as well. So, yeah.
We could get updates.
Yeah.
But what kind of things do you think should be in, like a weekly or in a monthly? Besides like the lawsuits and stuff like that should be ongoing. Do you think that those would be like weekly things or monthly things or as they happen things or?
You know, I've got that later on in the agenda. Can we, I'll defer that one, I will cover that. We will talk about when we get to that. All right, let's go into the Open Meetings Act for a second. Just some typical stuff. This is not because of anything directed at you. I do this with other people as well. So, do you know about the agenda and posting requirements? Yes, you probably do. Posting, you have to post all these meetings, so this meeting was posted.
Yeah.
And what's the rule for special meetings? 18 hours. 18 hours prior to the special meeting. Now, what about agenda requirements? There are none. So your only agenda requirements would be in your own policies. Sometimes people have a policy that says any special meeting has to have an agenda. Other times they don't have that, and so you don't have one. So I don't know if you had an agenda for today or not. The agenda for today would have just said call to order, presentation by the speaker, public comment, and adjournment. So at some point during this meeting, we'll have public comment. People can speak to us if they want. That's required in every meeting. Every meeting has to have public comment.
In a training session?
Yes. Was this a posted meeting?
Yes.
So yeah, so it's a posted meeting. You're talking about school business. You're not taking any action, but you're going to have public comment and you're going to have minutes. And you posted it. Those are the three main
Is
things.
that including
And it's on-
studies?
Yep.
Studies
In the training minutes.
Yep.
and studies.
And all it says in the minutes is call to order by President Mark, presentation by, all right, so I'm helping you here. There's no major deal here, but yes, this is what you're supposed to do. You call to order. That's why I was kind of waiting for you to call to order. Because, this is your meeting. It's a board meeting. It's posted. So you call to order. You ask if there's any public comment. You have the speaker, and then you have adjournment. That's what your minutes would say. They would also say the attendance of all the people. So you're required on the minutes to have things like the time of the meeting, the place of the meeting, who is attending in terms of the board, who's absent in terms of the board, and then the substance of the meeting, which all you would have to say about this is we had a presentation, a training session for board governance, that would be it. I mean, that's all that the minutes would say.
That would be including the pledge and for study sessions.
Yeah.
So
Every board
every
meeting.
training session, studies, whatever anybody wants to call it, the pledge, agenda.
Yeah, I mean, you can dispense with the pledge if you want to. I mean,
But why?
but why would you? But you can't dispense with call to order, public comment, and adjournment. Those things are always in a meeting. Those things are always in a meeting. Does that make sense? Yes.
So, it was posted as a meeting,
Yes.
but had it been posted as a training session for the board, would you have to?
Yeah. So then,
It was posted as a training session. It was posted as board training.
I think if you talk to a lawyer, so I'm not a lawyer, but I think if you talk to a lawyer, they would say that any meeting of the board, it doesn't matter if it's training or if it's informational or whatever, it's a board meeting and you follow the same rules for all the meetings. There's basically only two types of meetings: regular meetings, special meetings. There is nothing in the Open Meetings Act for training sessions, informational meetings, committee of the whole meetings. Those are not covered in Open Meetings Act. The only thing that's covered in the Open Meetings Act is regular and special, and then of course emergency, which emergency is like if there was a bomb that went off or something like that. Nobody ever calls an emergency meeting. You can call an emergency meeting with no notice is what the emergency is. But you don't do that. You always just do a special meeting and a regular meeting.
So both meetings are always the same. Call to order. Any meeting you have, call to order.
Pledge,
Public comments,
public comment.
pledge, and minutes.
Yeah, you always need minutes for all of your meetings. So like this meeting here, we will ask when I'm done, we'll ask for public comment, and if anyone has anything to say, they can say it, and then we adjourn after that, and then you take minutes. So who's the secretary? So all you would do is you write down everyone was here, and you write down Rod was here, and then you're going to give it to the secretary. You're going to give it to Angel. The staff secretary writes it up, and then you approve it next meeting.
She didn't realize that training sessions
Yeah, I
Under
think,
that umbrella.
I think that most attorneys would say that's how you should do it.
Because so
So you're saying that all of our meetings should either be called or written up as board meetings or special meetings?
Regular or special? Regular or special?
Every
So,
meeting.
Every meeting.
Workshop, study session, whatever. It's
Yeah.
either,
Special meeting of the board, and then you say workshop. I mean, it's still a
so it
special
doesn't
meeting of
matter.
the board.
It doesn't matter what you label it. It's either a regular board meeting
Or
or
a
a special
special
meeting. And they all are the same.
And what's your regular meetings?
The
They're
first
the ones
Monday.
that you decided at the beginning of the year. So when is your organizational meeting?
January.
So in January, did you decide your regular schedule,
Yeah,
which is what?
the first Monday.
First Monday. So then you're required to put a listing of those regular meetings.
And we have.
And you have
Yeah,
that.
we put those up.
So that's your regular meetings. So now, any other meetings that you have where these people get together, that's a special meeting. And you post it and you do those things at it. Doesn't matter if it's training.
So the things underneath, like, trainings, it still falls under the umbrella of
Special meetings. Yep.
Anything other than a first Monday is a special meeting.
Yeah, if you're meeting, it's a special meeting and you're posting it. Now, who has the authority to post a special meeting?
Board members.
Two board members could
Or-
call, or the board president.
Right. And so usually, how it works is the superintendent is usually the one that calls the board president and says, hey, can we have a special meeting, blah, blah, blah. You call everybody, make sure they can come, then you post it. And you're kind of doing it under his authority, is how you're doing
So
it.
how can two trustees, am I okay to, if I get an email from Barb, says, I'd like a special meeting on this day, and then Beth emails me, that's enough for me to say, special meeting?
Yeah, no, that's not usually how you would do it. You would usually go through the board president.
Okay, but
For
hypothetical.
any time.
Well, usually, I'm gonna say usually, that's
But
how you.
hypothetical, if I get emails, so,
Yes.
am I off topic?
No, go ahead.
So if, am I taking over the meeting? Okay. We can skip by that.
If you get emails requesting a special meeting,
Yeah,
I would ask what the topic is.
Okay.
From the person who's asking for it.
okay.
Check with the board president. If there's two board members that have the same topic, if that's what your policy says, so I would check your policy.
So it
and
says
see-
two, it says two.
Okay,
It says two.
okay, all right, so then you would go by that.
Then I call. If the board president tells me, no, we're not having it.
So what does the policy say?
It says two could call.
Then it seems to me you'd follow the policy.
Okay. And so then how do I go about setting the date? How do I go about setting the date without getting a consensus over email? Do I pick the dates and say, a special meeting has been called, and then do I just
Yeah, you
arbitrarily
could.
pick 4 or 5
You
dates?
could do it that way.
Okay.
I mean, I would like to see it with the board president's blessing to do special meetings. I mean, that's just normally how it would work. So, so I think we want to talk about that a little further maybe as we go in some of these different norms that we're going to talk about tonight. But you want to be together. If you're going to have a special meeting, you want everyone to come. You do not want to have a special meeting when people can't come. So you don't want a situation where people are calling a meeting and then only 4 people are coming and then those 4 people are running the show. That's not how you want to operate as a team, right? So somehow we got to get past this where if usually you don't have special meetings unless there is a purpose, like this one here. So how did you do this one here? You called me, we talked, I gave you some dates. How did you then go from there to get a date with the people?
So in the past, they authorized me to get training from them.
Okay.
So I gave them dates. And
They
well,
also said they
actually, I don't know if I gave them dates or I said, hey, are you available on this date?
Okay.
At this time. I picked
You
the date.
put this out there and then they said
And
yes.
then they replied back.
And you
to
have
me.
all 7 here, which is fantastic because
A miracle, actually.
in a lot of times I do these trainings and for whatever reason somebody can't come, so it's great. I'm really pleased to see all 7. So I think if you're going to do special meetings, there should be a purpose. Now you told me you're doing COW. That's different than the regular meetings.
What, doing what?
Or, did you say cow? No.
What's cow?
Committee of the whole, committee of the whole?
Yes, yeah, we,
You didn't say cow. You didn't say cow, okay, I apologize.
I just think, I personally think it's better right now if they're all together in every decision making or every
Right, so when are you
discussion.
doing the committee of the wholes?
So, for example, I want to do one at I want to do a meeting before every board meeting where we discuss everything on,
So you're doing it prior to the board meeting?
yeah, that's what I would like to do. That's my first one that I emailed.
But that, let me just mention that is a problem for people that are working.
Right.
That's a problem for our kids, like, for example, a meeting coming up, there's a lot of things going on with the kids in the high school and their,
What,
you know,
what time is your,
activities, so-
what time is your normal regular meeting?
7 p.m.
7. So what time you're thinking to do?
5.
You're thinking about 5.
And I just
What
wanted.
about a different night for your committee of the whole? Like 2 weeks, like third Mondays or something like that, you know?
In
where-
between board meetings?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's why the people do it, is they do the committee of the whole like on the off. Like sometimes people will do first and second Mondays, like second Monday is regular, first Monday is committee of the whole. So the strategy that you've got is good, but you want to make sure everyone can do it. And then you don't want to kill them on a night and have a 4-hour night either. I mean,
So
Every
you
board
really-
meeting.
well,
so we really do want all 7 board members present for policies and special meetings, and
I
we
mean,
really want that.
if you guys are willing to go, yeah, I mean, I think that's what you're shooting for. I mean, obviously, sometimes people have something that comes up and they can't make it, but you wouldn't want to set something where somebody can regularly not make it. So I would suggest that you look at, you know, can we do another night, maybe another Monday night opposite the board meetings? Try that for a while. I mean, you can always change it up. If people don't want 2 meetings a month, but to me, that would be a possibility. So you do the committee of the whole, and then you do regular, committee of the whole, and then regular, and you have this. Go ahead.
I think today is the first time any of us are ever hearing committee of the whole.
I never.
I never heard.
Well, we discussed that when we eliminated the committees. When we discussed,
We've never had a committee of the whole meeting, that's just our regular meeting,
Committee
we're a
of the whole.
whole.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of.
But for example, our meeting, okay, like Bill had to take off from work early tonight. So the meeting March 2nd, I can't be here at 5, and he's gonna be missing, he has to come off work early again. I mean,
Yeah.
it has to be something worked out.
I think you should try to work those kind of things out.
I think that's what he's suggesting, that we do it on a different day instead of
Yeah.
board
I
meeting.
mean, we can try to work that out tonight if you want, but yeah, I think you're trying, as you're developing your process here, that would be one strategy to do, is like, hey, let's do it on a Monday night that's like the second Monday night of the week or whatever it is, second Monday night of the month or whatever. But
Am I okay to send them 3 or 4 dates and say, hey,
yeah.
this day, this day, this
I mean,
day?
if you can't get a regular, so you could set up a regular committee of the whole night.
Yeah,
But if you can't get one, then you could try to do, at least as you're getting organized here, send them a few dates and say, hey, who can make this one, you know?
but you recommend a committee of a whole and maybe presenting them a whole dates?
Yeah, I like committee of the whole. So then what are you gonna do at these meetings? What are you doing at committee of the whole? You're discussing things that are coming up for the next board
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
You're not really making a lot of decisions.
No decisions at all.
And that has to be with public.
It is a board meeting, and you are making decisions in terms of possibly approving the agenda or, calling for adjournment. I mean,
So can I,
anytime you're meeting, here's the rule.
yeah,
Anytime you're meeting, you can make decisions. You are never restricted, and this is why every meeting that you meet is posted. Because like tonight, you could
I
make...
thought you can't,
No.
I thought during trainings, you can't take action.
If the board is meeting, if there's 4 people here,
that during training, they could take action?
Anything.
You can look at your policies. Here's what I'm talking about. Your policies might say, we're not taking any action on committee training, whatever the nights are.
They do.
But
Are they
the
our
law,
policies?
I'm talking about the law, the Open Meetings Act, does not preclude you from
So which
taking
one,
action.
so if
Your
our
policies
current,
would control.
so our policies control, so our policies say we cannot take action.
Perfect. There you
So
go.
then we follow that.
Yeah, follow that.
Well, did you bring your
Absolutely.
book, the policies, we can look it up right now.
I didn't know this was a board meeting, I thought this
No.
was a training, so I agree.
You can look it up later. Make a note to look it up. But yeah, that's a good,
Well, it would be good for everybody to hear the same
Yeah.
thing, because that's.
if you've got it,
Well,
I'll
I
be
have
happy
our
to.
bylaws.
There's definitely some policies that would say that if we're doing committee of the whole or we're doing training sessions, the board will take no action. It's in your bylaws. Perfect. That's fine. The point of that rule is that you don't operate with no one watching. That's the point of that. You can't call a training session and then decide to build a new track. You see what I mean? But the law, the Open Meetings Act, anytime you're together, you can make decisions.
So we still follow Open Meetings Act. It says right here, committee meetings, any board committee, whether standing or appointed, ad hoc, which exercises governmental or propriety authority must comply with the open meetings provisions in 0168.1 and 0168.2 and public participation provisions in 0167.3. Committees are empowered to take action, make recommendations, or otherwise deliberate in place of the board or subject to requirements.
Okay, so that's
What I've been
committees.
saying.
Now, Beth, that's just a little different than committee of the whole.
But I'm
So,
just saying, there are committees, this is what it says.
I'm going to say this right here. This is on my agenda, so I want to say what she was just saying. Okay, you guys caught it. Committees are subject to open meetings as well. So if you have 3 people that are going to meet on something, you should be posting the meeting, you should be asking if there's any public comment, and then you should be taking minutes.
But how can a committee of 3 take action if you're saying they could take
So
action
the-
without the rest of the board?
The
So
way
there's
that,
trust in the public.
no,
No, I'm saying,
Yeah.
how can,
hang on a second.
Not that quorum.
Hang on a second. This is the committee process, and the reason that the lawyers have said, case law has said that it's subject to open meetings, is because you are making deliberations towards a decision at the board level. So since you've empowered this committee, which you don't have any committees right now, so we're kind of talking moot point here, but if you had a committee that was working on something, it's subject to open meetings. The actions that they take are not board actions, they're committee actions. So it might be to recommend that the budget goes to the board, it might be to recommend the policies go to the board. Whatever the actions are, it doesn't matter. But the committees itself are subject to open meetings.
so I got a question for you. So if I want to present the board with the big 9, with this discrimination and things like that, my plan was to meet with all of them together to discuss it so we could have it up there, so we could change stuff. Now they're making recommendations on stuff and we're changing all that. That's
That's all
okay.
fine.
That's
Yeah, it's
okay.
fine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. But you've posted the meeting?
Well, we haven't had it yet.
No, but I'm saying you would.
That's what I would
posted-
like to do at 5 p.m.
You will have posted the meeting, yeah. So you're gonna post the meeting, you're gonna be taking minutes, you're
Call
gonna
to
ask for
order.
public comment, it's like a regular meeting.
Okay.
That's what it is. And the only thing is you wanna set it at times so people can come.
Sure, okay.
So that's,
Okay.
so it's not really anything different than what you're doing. And that policy that you're reading, Beth, is the committee policy.
But we've had committees, and
I'm sure we
there's a
haven't followed
possibility
that.
there could be more committees of 2 or more, 2, 3, 4. whatever.
Well, and usually it's just when you've got board committees, so it's not his committees, it's board committees, so it's usually 3 board members appointed by the board, it's a board thing. And then it's finance, or it's closing the school, or it's whatever, you know, and that's the job. It could be an ad hoc, you said ad hoc, it could be ad hoc. So then those meetings are subject to open meetings act, which means 3 basic things: post it, ask for public comment, take minutes. That's basic. Now, okay, Is that good on that? Did I cause more questions than I answered?
I think it's good because we don't have meetings.
Yeah, you don't have committees, so you're good, but committee of the whole, so I'm gonna go back to committee of the whole. What are you gonna do at these meetings? You're gonna talk about things that are gonna come before the board.
Yes, so they're
So-
not, my goal is they see things and discuss things before, so they don't see it for the first time in a
Perfect.
board meeting.
Perfect.
So anything that we want to
Great
put on the
idea.
agenda or anything,
Great.
if we have question, answer, grilling, whatever.
So you have to plan this out. So you
Yeah.
plan this meeting, and then then the next board meeting you're gonna have is gonna be like that. So I do think, I'm gonna just say, and I know if I'm speaking out of turn, just tell me, I don't think you should do it on the same night. I think you should do different nights. Give them some time in between, make sure that everyone can come, yes.
Well, we actually had, we were in an email discussion on this. We had a meeting in November that was voted 4-3 not to have these meetings on the same night of board meetings.
Oh, wow.
But
Well, you're just doing the best you can do. I think that's a good idea to try to do them separate nights, see if you can come up with something.
No, I didn't know there's only 2 types of meetings now,
Well,
because I thought there was trainings and workshops, but I guess now
Not
there's
really, yeah.
2
Just
types of
2
meetings. I gotta revisit
Special and
this.
regular, special and regular. All right, so let me ask you this one. So social gatherings, is that okay? Yes, social gatherings are okay. Polling members,
Not okay.
yes,
Yeah.
polling members is okay. Now let me show you how you do it. Let's say Mark wants to poll. How do you guys feel about having these committee of the whole meetings? Let's just say. So you could call Debbie, and then you could call Gloria, and you could call Mark, and as long as you don't tell each one what they said, you have just gained that knowledge. You see what I mean? But if you start telling Gloria what Debbie said, then you're violating. So that's called polling. You probably have it. And nobody usually, you don't really do it, but sometimes there's something that you want to do that the board president wants to have a lay of the land. We got this big thing coming up. I want to have a little lay of the land before I go into this meeting. You can poll, and it's not a violation, as long as you don't tell.
Am I free to poll, or if I poll, then do I have to say, hey, I met with everyone? Because right now, if
You
I
are
meet with someone, I have to tell them.
You are free to poll, and you do not have to tell everyone that you asked people. You can call people individually and say, hey, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? How do you feel? It's not a violation.
Can the individual board members do that too?
Yes, but normally you don't usually do it, but yes, you could do it. And you can talk to each other individually, but you cannot start talking in groups.
How do you stop them from coming to a consensus? Because Traverse City is with, that was the issue with Traverse City. They were polling each other.
You can't tell the other person what you've said. Yes.
can the superintendent call me? I answer his question, he call Bill, and then tell Bill what I said?
No.
Or can the board president do that?
No.
Okay.
No, that's the
Can
rule.
you say that again one more time?
When
I
you,
wanna write this
if
down.
you do any polling, which is calling individual people, you cannot share what the other person said. So you call Beth and you get her sense
What
of
are your
something.
thoughts about this?
What are your thoughts
Bill,
about
what are your
this?
thoughts about this?
And then you call Bill, though that's fine. It gives you information, helps you know where the board is at. As long as you're not sharing it with other board members, you're
Okay.
okay.
So anybody can do it.
Mark.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm so against the text, because
Okay, I'm gonna get into that.
you can see other people.
Here we go, right here. See, look at this. You cannot, this is a rule, and I heard you guys say this earlier, so I want to emphasize it. You cannot reply to all on an email or a text. You cannot do group texting. That is a violation. Now, how do you do it? Angel, you want to email the board. Put the board in the BC line.
BC line?
BC,
Line.
blind copy, BC,
Okay.
blind copy. Email yourself. Put the board members in the blind copy. Then you email them everything. Then if they reply, they can only reply to you.
Oh, okay.
See, it's a little trick. They
Yeah.
cannot violate. Same thing with you, Mark. If you email people, you could do that. You could BC so that they can't reply to all. But the rule is you cannot reply to all.
I think there's exceptions.
What would it be?
Opinions, you could give opinions and reply all.
Another thing might be just talking about dates for a meeting. I mean, that's.
Well-
Yeah, because if I say, hey, are you guys available?
All right, so let's just say, okay, asking what food you want
Yes.
or what dates will work,
Preferences.
no big deal. But when you start talking about frank communications, so what you're talking about, Bill, is frank communications. And just offering opinions is not generally considered frank communications. So I'm going to just say the general rule is to not reply to all. And that's what you were saying. So do you want to repeat what you were saying?
That's why I've been against it.
Okay. So there's been group texting. Should not be doing it.
The problem is with this board in the past, it's been, I'm not able to trust others. So it's hard to trust people. So this is what happens.
People
We're not
want it
getting
in
the same, we're
writing.
not getting the same information. I want everything in writing or an email. So
Yeah, so we've got to get past that. So these are some rules. So I just want to, I know we're just in the first moments here, but I want to just tell you, good practice is not replying to all. That is a violation of the Open Meetings Act. You're having a discussion outside of the board meeting. It's not
But if I
allowed.
do it this way, they
They
could feel
can't
free to
reply.
reply,
Yeah,
and it would come to me.
yeah.
Okay.
And you can, so here's the rule. You can reply to Angel. So let's say Angel sends an email out to the whole board. You can reply to Angel, no problem. You just can't share that with the other board members. See what I mean? The discussion is the problem. So Beth replies to you, Gloria replies to you, Barb replies to you, it's no problem.
I'm going to disagree with that.
Okay, all right.
Because I've looked this up many times, and I think I've shared these emails with case law, many case law that shows you, reply all, it's okay, you're just giving it, you just can't deliberate and ask for opinions, like you said earlier.
Well, I'm gonna,
And ask for, I guess you can't.
I'm just gonna tell you that I've been to numerous workshops, listened to lawyers, listened to different people talk about this. And the one thing I would say is that every person I've ever heard speak on this topic says you cannot reply to all. It's a
I
violation.
did send an email to Brad Anderson, and he said, yes, it is okay.
Okay, well, I would be interested in seeing that, or maybe email him again and
But
see.
you guys would have a problem with me looking at my phone?
Yeah.
You might just say this as a good sound practice.
Yeah,
to-
it's a good practice.
Yeah.
And maybe Brad would say, hey, there's an exception. I don't know, I've never heard him say that. But I just think it's a good practice to not do it.
Maybe the Wi-Fi password.
Okay, now, you guys go into closed session once in a while, right? And so these are not called executive sessions, they're called closed sessions. That's what's in the law, and that's the wording you should use.
Can you repeat that?
They're not called executive sessions, they're called closed sessions. That's what's in the wording in the law. And so on your agenda, you should always put closed session for the purpose of, so you always have to state the purpose and you have to include it in the minutes. And then when you go back into open session, you don't have to take a motion to go back in. Mark, you can just reconvene. Just gavel it, we're open. And it's up to you who you invite to participate in a closed session. So you're the board, it's your closed session. So let's say you're doing an expulsion hearing. The parents say they want a closed session, so then they come in and they present, the administration presents. You could actually ask the parents to leave and deliberate in closed session, because the closed session is yours. It's not theirs, even though they requested it. See what I mean? So there's just the little nuances with that. So I did say public comments required at every meeting. So you got that down. Here's a little thing that I put out for public comment. Now I don't know if you use anything in this portion of the agenda is for citizens to address any questions or comments to the board. The board will listen, take comments and questions under advisement, and not respond at this time. The presiding officer will refer the questions to the superintendent for research and response. Now, I don't know what your habits are. I didn't watch all your board meetings on TV or anything, but generally, I would say that the best procedures for taking public comment is to listen. And so you give eye contact, you give the respect to the speaker, but you are not in a good position to respond. I mean, you're just not. You don't know. They're throwing something out at you. You don't know the answer. He might not know the answer. Try to engage something, it's not a good response. So my thing is, 100% of the time, all the time, you listen, you say thank you, and then you get back. So then what do? So now, somebody said something. So you say thank you, the person sits down, you guys go on with your meeting. The next day, you call that person, and you say, hey, I understand you said this, blah, 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 let me research that. Then on Friday in your update, you tell the board, remember the comment we had on Monday? This is what I found out. This is the situation. This is resolved. Then the next board meeting, you can even make an announcement. This situation that was asked about last meeting, this is how it was resolved. I mean, you can actually close the loop on these things and not feel like it's a black hole, you know, when people talk to the board. Yes?
That's a great idea, because that's one of the complaints I always get is nobody ever responds to their questions. When do you think that public comment should be, at the beginning of the agenda or at the end of the agenda?
Is this a trick? This could be a trick question.
No, it's not. It's honestly, what do you feel is best?
This is how I like to run mine. Call to order, pledge of allegiance, moment of silence, that type of stuff. Then I would do academic spotlight, something that is fun for the kids or whatever. Then I would do public comment after that. And then I did reports, action items, discussion. That's how I did my agenda.
But Robert's Rules of Order, which we follow in our bylaws, we follow Robert's Rule of Order,
Right.
is the first thing that comes after Pledge of Allegiance or any ceremonies is with minutes. The secretary has to get up and read the minutes. Robert's Rule of Order. Then the second is the committee.
You know, it could have been consent agenda could have been next, could have been first. I don't recall
Well,
that.
that's business, then it's business on hand. But I just wanted to know, because the other problem is that we have public comments in the beginning, and then we talk about all this stuff that frustrates parents, and nobody responds back to them. So they don't have a chance to speak, they don't have a chance to ask more questions, and it's
Well, obviously you can adjust your public comment to try to adjust different concerns that people have. But I would say if you have a good technique of getting back to people with their concerns, so if they're speaking about something that's on the agenda, you know, sometimes people go with this both ways. Like I want to be able to say my piece before the board addresses this thing that's on the agenda. They want that option. And then the other option, of course, is having it at the end of the meeting where the things have already been discussed. That's no good.
But the public doesn't have our agenda. They don't know what we're talking about. They have no clue.
So that's another thing that you could do so they don't have an agenda.
They do have agenda when they come to the meeting.
Okay,
But
not
not in front
everybody
of me.
has an agenda, and they don't always know when they're coming to meetings. First time meetings, people don't know.
So
We're
have
not
you thought
very
about
good at-
publishing the agenda?
So I talked to the team and I said we should start putting, you know how right now the practice has been, they just post the notice. So I met with the team and I said, you know, does it hurt us to put what's on the agenda up there at the same time? Because we're trying to get, if the meeting's on Monday, we're trying to get it by the end of the day Thursday. So the trustees have rest of the evening Thursday, Friday, and the weekend
Yeah,
Monday.
that's great.
So we'll have that already up there. So it doesn't hurt us to put it up there. And
Here's what I think you should do. All right, I say this respectfully. Anything I say, of course, you can take with a grain of salt. But I think you should publish your agenda for the board meeting on probably Friday evening. So like, let the board have it one day in advance, and then put it out on the website. You know, the next day. Yeah, let people know what you're doing. I mean, yes, Mark.
Well, the other thing we're gonna have to do is adjust the piece of paper that people fill out. Just make it easy. So we have a template.
we're working on.
Yeah,
We're
perfect.
working on
Good
that.
idea. So you have a little card that they fill out to speak?
They do,
Yeah,
but it doesn't take phone numbers.
yeah, let's get a
They
phone
don't
number on
have
there.
to give phone numbers.
No, they don't have to, but if they want a response,
Yeah, and if they want to
and
respond.
you can
to
tell
me,
them, Mark, you can, if you're the board president, if you put something like this on your agenda where you're actually reading, this is our process for public comment, then, now, obviously, you might want to discuss it and get it in writing and have it be a policy before you do it at a meeting. So you might want to work on this stuff and get
Okay.
this done before you make changes at a meeting.
So if we're gonna work on a form, we're then work on the form, present it to them in that committee
Yep,
to discuss, to tweak
then-
it, get
and then
everyone's
adopt
input.
it for
Adopt it, and
and
then
then
roll
start
it out.
using it. Yep,
Is
exactly.
that an agenda too, an agenda that we, like a basic agenda that we follow? Would that be the same thing, like come up with a typical agenda that, like
Yeah,
new
I
business,
mean,
old business?
You could do something like that. I mean, generally, the agenda is up to the board president. But a typical agenda is nice to have. And so for me, yeah, it was always the same order of things. And I always had reports, action items, discussion items, and then adjournment. I mean, it was always the same. And so yes, I think that's a good thing to go over with the board. This is what the agendas look like. Mark looks at it, says, yep, that's what we'll follow. Angel helps put it together, and then everyone sees it
But
the
see,
same all the time.
you're saying one thing, but the policy book says another. It says the superintendent shall set the agenda, but now you're saying something different.
But that, no, I'm saying that you would add additional things.
Yeah, it's just a typical agenda.
It's just a typical, like,
But
something we regularly.
generally, I mean, your policy could be different, but generally, it's the board's agenda. So the board president is in charge of the approval of the agenda before it goes out. So you put it together, yes, but you also, a lot of times you talk to the board president, you say, hey, this is what's on the agenda. He says, yep, sounds good. Then it goes out to the board, and then, then it goes out to the public. I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything different than what you're doing probably, but I'm just saying it, technically, the board president is in charge of the board. You're in charge of the district. So it's a board meeting, so yes, you are doing the agenda because he doesn't know what needs to go on the agenda. But if he wanted to put something on the agenda, he would have the right to do that. You guys
So if
working
he says,
together.
put this on, even if I disagree, he says, put it on, I put it on.
Yes, yes.
I have a
Is
question
that what
about
you would
that.
say too? Yeah.
I have a question about that. What if a board member wants to put something on the agenda, has to go to a board president, and the board president won't add it?
So then it require, 3 other people with you.
Okay, so is that to amend in a meeting? Because there always seems to be a fight or an argument
Yeah.
or something.
I mean, you don't, you'd like to get away from this type of stuff and just let it kind of work, and obviously you've got some work to do. But yes, I have had it happen to me where the agenda was set, but one board member wanted to add something. And so what happened at the board meeting, I'll just tell you, we added it. The person said, hey, I want to add something to the agenda, and so we went along with it. And we added it, and then it got voted down 2-5, is how it eventually went. But to me, you're respecting all of the board members. All 7 board members have equal respect on this board. And yes, the board president's elected to run the meetings, facilitate, and I've got some stuff on this later, but you don't want to, in my mind, you want to try to comply with the board's wishes. Obviously, if there's things being added to the agenda that are frivolous and not part of the board's business, and sooner or later, somebody's going to say, hey, we're not doing this. We're not doing this anymore.
But if
We're
it's
moving
board
forward."
business, it should
It
be added.
It could be added, for sure. I don't think there's necessarily a big problem with that, but let me go into parliamentary procedures for a second, Robert's rules, just to spark the discussion. Are you guys doing okay? Do you need a break? Are you all right?
I
Good?
just had one question.
Yeah.
Getting back to the closed session,
Yes.
does the secretary take minutes, the board secretary take minutes during the closed session?
Okay, so this is another whole thing, so let me just speak to it. So you are required to do closed session minutes, but they generally are going to be very short. So you're going to list the members present, the time, the purpose, and then basically that's it.
Because the material that you're discussing is very sensitive.
Yeah.
And by
But
posting
that's
it,
how, no, you can't post it, you can't do anything with
it
it.
would be a violation.
Can you repeat what has to be on there? The people present,
People present, the time of the thing, the topic, and that's about it.
Just the sheer nature of taking minutes, are those not foilable?
No, they're not foilable. They're closed session minutes, so they're not foilable. But do you ever approve closed session minutes? So here's a little technique of how to approve them. So you ready for this? This is a little trick. So what you do, Barb, is you read back the minutes to the board. So you guys are in closed session, you've talked about the topic, and you're ready to go back into open. So then you say, Barb, would you read back the minutes?
And I would summarize.
You would read exactly,
But I'm good.
no, you're not gonna post anything.
I mean,
Just
what I'm
hang
gonna
on, hang on just a second. Yes, what you record, you just read it to them. Then when you go back into open session, click, 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 we're now in open session. Could I have a motion to approve the closed session minutes? So you've just done it verbally, then you give them recorded to Angel, who puts it in a folder for closed session
But
minutes.
when we come back, it's just,
you don't read it.
I don't have to read it.
Not in
I
open,
do it
in closed. I actually had a board that I trained to do this, and when I was sitting right there, right after open session was called, the person started reading the minutes. I was like, no, you've got to read them in closed session. You read them back in closed session. It's very short. And then you click, 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 open session. Now I need a motion to approve the closed session minutes. That's how you approve them. And then you're approved, then you give him the thing that you put in the folder, and when can you destroy them?
Never?
1 year and 1 day. 1 year and 1 day. 1 year and 1 day after they're approved.
Just the closed session.
Just the closed session. Open session minutes can never be destroyed.
That's right.
So does that make sense?
Yes.
It's an easy way to be in compliance. That's what we're shooting for, Angel, is just being in compliance with these rules.
And then can I make a comment?
Yeah.
When we're not in compliance, which we probably haven't been in some time, it was not intentional.
No,
We're
absolutely
all
not.
still learning.
Listen, you
That's
guys
why we
are the same everywhere I go. Everywhere. I have various issues that people don't know. So, I mean, I know this.
You don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So if there are things, does the state like say, hey, Mr. Abdullah, these are the things that you need to correct, or?
This kind of stuff nobody would ever know. You know, obviously, there's things that are more public and then that get more public publicity. But some of these rules are just little techniques, just little tricks of the trade.
But if you want to do things right, not whether people know or don't know, what's the process? Who notifies you that
You have to go to trainings. You have to listen to people like me that speak. You have to listen to Brad. You have to just do trainings that allow you to learn these various things. That's all. There's no real.
But there's no
Bible.
correspondence from the state saying, hey, there was a complaint filed against you?
Oh, yeah, if you had a complaint, there would be.
Okay,
But
so then the state notifies you?
they might notify you of something, but yeah, you're not gonna get, there's no police out there that are really looking at this type of thing. You know, you're a school district, there's 700 school districts. You know, everybody's doing their best they can do.
It's our job to do due diligence.
Yes, keep
When we know
after
we're breaking
it.
Open Meetings Act, we
Yeah.
need to correct it.
And you gotta keep after it, and that's why I'm glad you're doing this training, because these are the kinds of things that I've run into in lots of different places, and it's just part of the training. Just keep on working on it. Now, let's talk about quorum for a second. Everybody knows what a quorum is. How many does it take for you?
4.
4. How about conflict of interest and abstaining? When would you have a conflict of interest? Does anybody have a spouse in the district? A kid, sister, brother,
kid.
relative.
I,
Are they in the bargaining unit?
No,
Oh, student, all right. So I'm thinking of employees. So if you have a family member who's in a bargaining unit, that's a conflict of interest. You can't vote on that.
Or if you have a vested
friend
interest.
That has a company that's bidding on something, the district are looking for approval.
could be, it's generally if you have a pecuniary interest. So $250 is the rule. So if you have an asphalt company and they're bidding on doing the asphalt, you would have to abstain on that. But a lot of times you don't have a conflict, and so you are supposed to vote on everything that comes before you. So you can't just abstain just because you don't want to vote on something. I
What
mean,
if you're not, excuse me, what if you don't understand, what if you're not understanding the whole thing, so you'd rather just,
you're not supposed to. You're supposed to vote.
But you can, anybody can abstain whenever they want.
See, and I would disagree respectfully that if you listen to speakers that speak on this topic, they say that you're an elected official, you're required to vote on every topic that comes before you unless you have a conflict of interest.
Or you don't have enough information.
Well,
that's what I
And
was
then
saying.
sometimes we're not allowed to continue the discussion.
Because we're not fully, we're
well,
not.
and so I just think that you're
Better to
you're
not.
voting no then maybe, but
It's no vote.
yeah, it's better to vote no. But the point I'm making,
Abstain is no vote.
It's a zero vote. It's a zero. It's not a
Unless it
vote.
needs to
Yeah.
be.
It's a zero vote.
I don't mean no, I mean it's not a vote.
It's, yeah,
it's not a yes
or a
vote.
no.
It's not a yes. But my point on this one is,
Can I read
generally, you want to vote on things. Yes.
Can I read this to you, Robert's
Sure.
Rule of Order? Does a member have to vote? No, choosing not to vote is abstaining. Even though having each member vote is in the best interest of the member and the organization, no one can compel a member to vote. Is an abstention counted as a yes or no vote? To abstain means not to vote. You can't count a non-vote, therefore, if you abstain, counts as a zero vote.
So
Anyone can.
that's Robert's rules, and that's great. I believe Michigan law in regard to elected officials says that you're supposed to vote on items that come before you. So I've been to a couple workshops, Beth, where they've made this point. This is why I put it in my
So
stuff.
Michigan law trumps the Roberts rule?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So
That's what
our
I've heard.
bylaws, that's where this board has a problem, because, and which was one of my things to you, is that our bylaws always resort back to Robert's Rules of Order, board president resorts back to Robert's Rules of Order, so how would we know to pick and choose? When are we?
Yeah, I agree with what Mark said. If state law kind of trumps it, but I mean,
Well, you're in the
Or
middle, if you're in the middle of
Yeah,
a
the meeting, yeah.
You're in the middle of a
I
meeting.
mean, nobody's gonna, I will tell you that if somebody abstained, I'm not gonna call them out and say you have to vote. I mean, I might talk to them afterwards. I had somebody abstain one time. This is why this is on this slide.
You're talking about you as a
I,
superintendent
as a
or you
superintendent,
as a
it's
trustee?
me as a superintendent, I had someone abstain on the minutes one time. And so it happened, it was over with, at the end of the meeting, I said, why did you abstain? And so they said, it's kind of like you did, I didn't know, I wasn't there, so I didn't want to vote on it. And basically I said, no, you should vote on things. That's the minutes of the board, you should vote on it. You're not allowed to abstain just because you weren't at that previous meeting. Now, you guys are disagreeing with that. I'm saying that the workshops that I've been to, they say that since you're an elected official, one of the rules is you're supposed to vote on items that come before the board. Now, if it happens and you abstain, I don't think anybody would worry about it because obviously you still need 4 votes to pass something. So if 2 people abstain, you have 5 to 0 to 2,
What
I
if
mean,
it causes a tie or something?
I'd like to get back to sometimes not having the information.
okay.
Rather than vote, if you feel like you don't have enough information, can't you ask to table it?
You could?
I mean, and then you get your information. I mean, you should never vote if you're not clear.
Well, yes, and that could be
Superintendent.
superintendent.
I totally agree with that, 100% what she said.
The superintendent, sometimes you might, if the discussion is where people are feeling like they don't have enough information, if you were recognized by the board president, you might say, hey, why don't I get a little bit more information and bring this back to you next time? So you could do that as well, where that's not really tabling it. Tabling it is another motion, but that is more of a withdrawing of, of
And I could do that?
You could do that if, you gotta be recognized. I mean, this is a board meeting.
Yeah.
But obviously, if people don't think they have enough information, you can say, Mr. President, and then offer, why don't I go back, I can get some things, we can put this on next month,
And then they don't need to take action.
and then you don't need to take action.
Okay.
And hopefully, if we have these committees at home prior to our.
Yeah, that might help.
Then that's gonna.
That's
solve
gonna
a lot
help.
of
That'll help.
issues with the-
That'll help. Okay, can I keep moving? What am I doing on time?
26.
All right.
We're scheduled till 9 o'clock. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay, so let me keep going. Motion, support, discussion. Now, this is kind of for you, Mark. So in your meetings, do you ask for the superintendent to give a little background before you ask for a motion? How do you usually do it? Okay, if it's kind of a weighty topic, you might ask for some background. So what I'm going to say is it's fine to get more background at the beginning before you make a motion. But once you make a motion, then you should be looking for discussion at the end. So if you get a motion, you get support, then you're saying, okay, now is there any more discussion? Is there any further discussion?
Would that call for a further explanation from the superintendent?
At the same time, yep, at the same time, absolutely. Yep, absolutely, yes.
So what is your take on discussion and discussion time?
So my take on that is you need to have as much discussion as is needed to understand the topic, and the superintendent might have to answer more questions during the discussion of the board. But what I'd like to say is the superintendent has given a lot of information in the background so that people are understanding the topic. So at the beginning, so this is what I was saying at the beginning, you give background of the topic. So you've given some background, now you kind of feel like you guys could ask questions during that time of the superintendent, but you're not really discussing it amongst yourselves yet. You're just getting background. Now you do motion, support, and then you say, is there further discussion? Now you're discussing and giving your opinions and not really necessarily asking questions, although you could. And you could still be asking him for further explanation or more questions. And so time frame of that, depending on the topic, usually about 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that.
I'm talking about like for each board member, like do you think
Oh,
that a board member, if a board member is not clear, do you think there should be a time limit that a board member, like if they have more questions?
So I have a thing on here later called round robin. So what round robin is the board president calling on people in a fashion that allows all board members to participate, not just one. So let's say, Beth, you're passionate about something and you jump out of the gate and you speak your piece. And then Mark says something and then you want to jump right back in. What you would say is, hang on just a second, let's see if anyone else has a comment. And so you try to do round robin where, all right, Bill, can you speak? And then you go back to Beth. See what I mean? That's round robin. So how much time? I don't know, maybe a couple minutes?
So Robert, you follow Robert's rule of order.
Okay, what does it say?
So Robert's rule of order is, everyone goes around. It says each person has 10 minutes. Okay, I know that's excessive, I'm just saying, 10 minutes the first time. If nobody wants to speak, it just goes back, each person talks at least 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I know that's excessive, I'm just saying
Yeah,
that's
that
what
sounds a
Robert's.
little-
Yeah.
Here's the fact, people are making the same point over and over. Like, you have to do it.
That's one of our problems, is that some people possibly know more than others, some need further conversation on it. It appears that others are more informed.
Are people being perceived as filibustering?
By you, right? Not by, maybe not by the whole, but you want to move the
The bottom
meeting.
line is, I run the meeting.
Right.
And if I feel you're being repetitious, like, you always have to be recognized, I recognize you. You keep bringing the same points up over and over and over.
But I
have the ability to.
But if I'm not getting answers, Mark, I'm going to keep asking.
Well,
And it's not just me that I'm trying to understand it for, I'm trying to understand from the people sitting back here too. I'm trying to understand from the people who ask me questions.
being repetitious.
See, what is repetition?
That's what it takes.
Was
I
board
I
president.
think that's my fault because I'm not given enough information, so I need to do a better job of answering, and that's, my hope was this, if I could have, like, committee as a whole, where allow the board members to ask me anything, and
Yeah.
until they're
That might help.
comfortable enough, if I allow them to ask me anything, then they'll be more comfortable during the board meeting, where less questions are, because I've given them the time. So that's my fault, and I'm gonna
So
work on it.
I will tell you a story that happened to me one time, just indulge me for a second. In my early career, I had one board member that was kind of having an issue with the rest of the board. And on one particular topic, let's just say Bill here, it doesn't.
That's fine.
Let's say Bill. On one particular topic, he was just on it, and he kept on it, and he kept on it. And, you know, and eventually someone on the rest of the board said, I call the question. Now, I've got this on here, right here. So calling the question, now I don't know what Robert's Rules says, but I know what, I'm gonna just say what I think it says. It says, calling the question is not debatable. You need a second, and that means if it's not debatable, you have to vote on it. But it requires a 2/3 majority, which on this type of board is 5, not 4. So what happened though, Bill, was it was 4-3. So unfortunately, I didn't know the rule at the time of my young life, and so we closed debate. And then the board president said, okay, what's the vote? You know, and we voted, it was 6-1.
So you closed it as a superintendent?
No, we closed it as the board, you know, and I pointed to the board president, asked, okay, let's do the board, let's do the vote, and it was 6-1. So then the next day, board president called me and said, hey, you know, did we do that right last night? And so I did check, found out it had to be 2/3, I said, no, we did it wrong. So we actually reconvened.
A trustee says, call to question, someone has to second it, and then the board has to vote on it.
Yes.
And it's up.
And a 2/3.
So on our board, it's 5.
5.
Right.
And so in my case, it was only 4, so we had properly closed debate, is my point. So we reconvened the next day and reenacted the whole thing. So we called the meeting back to order, we said, okay, the debate is now open, and so then the board member said, okay, I'm done with this topic, and so we re-voted, it was 6-1, and we moved on.
That was my other
Let me ask,
question.
well, I'm sorry. The vote of 2/3, is that to whether the discussion is done or on the topic? Or on the motion?
It's on the, no, it's not on the motion, it's on closing debate.
Okay, right.
So they still have to vote on the other.
Right.
Yes.
So if the debate is a vote, you call a question that is just to say, okay, no more discussing. Right, and you still have to vote on the other.
Yes, yes.
And when there's a mistake made like that, you have to call it for the next day. Or, I mean, you have to call for a correction in the meeting.
I did do that, yes. I think that was the proper thing to do. The mistake was made, and so I just called every board member and said, hey, we improperly closed debate. We need to have another meeting, and we're going to reopen debate. And we did it, and I think it gave us a lot of credibility with the one board member, even though there was no result change, but it was admitting that we had made a mistake. So that's the rule on closing debate. Now, generally, I'm going to say here, generally, the board president does not usually make motions. They always are voting, but they can make motions. So there is a possibility the board president could make a motion if they chose to. There's no rule against that. Now, I don't know about what Robert's rule says, but I'm saying that this is general how meetings go.
Actually, I want to hear what the Robert's rules say.
Do you have it? You have what it says, chairperson making motions?
Well, okay, so it's not basically about the chairperson making a motion. For example, if we're in the middle of a motion and Mark wants to speak, according to Robert's Rule of Order, Mark needs to pass his chair over to the VP. If the VP doesn't want it, then it would go to the secretary or another.
You mean the facilitation of the
The
meeting?
facilitation, and then Mark so this is how we're supposed to be running it. According to our bylaws, we use Robert Rules of Order. So Marcus, if he wants to speak on a motion or make a motion that he has to pass his
for that moment. I
For
mean,
that moment,
so
and
like,
then-
I'm not sure how that would exactly work, but if Mark wanted to speak, he would, who's the vice president? He would say to Debbie, okay, I'm gonna speak, can you
Debbie
facilitate
has to
this for a
facilitate
moment?
it.
And then speak.
How we do it now is I read the motion, someone takes it.
You read the motion
I
and
read the
someone,
motion off the agenda.
yep, and someone makes it.
Someone takes that. Second.
I think so, I'll make that motion and somebody will second.
Okay, no, that's fine, that's
Well,
fine,
that's not according to Robert's Rule of Order.
to do it that way?
No, if Mark wants to speak on any motion, he has to pass his chair.
It's just announcing.
Yeah, I would agree with that interpretation of that. I don't think that's a violation of Robert's rules, because to me, the board president is facilitating the meeting, and so he's saying, okay, item A is a motion on such and such. Here's the motion that we're talking about, or Mr. Superintendent, would you please speak to this? I mean, you're speaking and
Generally, I
facilitating.
say next on the agenda.
Yeah,
Someone takes a motion.
It says that,
what's it say?
it says that he must remain impartial as a member. The presiding officer has a right to debate. Thus, if the presiding officer wishes to speak to an issue, he relinquishes the chair to another officer.
Yeah, but that's in discussion.
Right.
This is just announcing the motion.
He can
So I-
announce it, but if he's gonna speak,
Yeah,
if he's
so I-
gonna speak on it. he
I'm
has
gonna just say, as the impartial person here, I think that's okay for you to announce the motion, but I think if you are gonna speak and discuss the motion, it would be fine to say, Debbie, I wanna speak to this for a second, can you
How
recognize
how
me?
about if it's just an explanation of the motion?
Yeah, no, I think the explanation is fine.
At what point, so Robert's rules can't trump your policies and your bylaws.
No, it doesn't.
So it's just,
Right.
I am
Well,
assuming that,
bylaws
can I,
are-
can
our
I,
bylaws
can I,
are-
can I finish? Can I finish?
Yes.
Your bylaws and your policies are governing you, as long as they conform to the state law.
Right.
Robert's rules are basically, I think they're aiding you in this, and if your bylaws and policies don't speak to a certain matter, then you can kind of defer. But you can't say, I'm gonna use this book, and I'm not gonna use the bylaws and policies either.
But our bylaws don't say anything about chair doing,
Well,
discussing.
I would just tell you that most people have in their bylaws that we follow Robert's rules, but nobody is following it to that extent.
The reason why the reason why I study
You're studying
them is because,
You don't feel like it's being run right?
well, no.
No.
It's because it's always, Robert's Rule of Order, in Robert's Rule of
Oh,
Order.
right.
So
Well-
if we're gonna follow Robert's Rule of Order, I'm gonna know Robert's Rule of Order, so, yeah, I've read the book.
I
twice.
think you should, I don't think
And
you
I'm working
should,
on it third time.
I think you need to have some common sense with Robert's rules too, and to my way of thinking, it's certainly appropriate for the board president to announce the topic and to say this is what we're discussing. I don't see a problem with saying to Debbie, hey, I'd like to discuss this, can you facilitate my thoughts? I mean, that's fine, but normally, everyone just speaks, but the board president, I mean, when I facilitate a meeting, I also speak sometimes, so I don't see that as a real problem, but you
Right.
definitely want to facilitate the discussion amongst the board.
Because of time,
Yeah,
can we
keep
just
it-
keep
keep
it,
it-
yeah, if you don't
All right,
mind.
I've got one question. Bill, an email,
Yeah,
did you find it?
yeah,
About the reply all?
yeah. It said,
My understanding is the same as yours, as long as we're not debating and deliberating.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you over here. The public's supposed to be able to hear you. You don't have microphones or speakers set up, so if you can see up
He's
louder.
just saying that you could,
Yeah,
he
but
agreed with
we
Bill.
really need to hear, and half the stuff is
Go
really
ahead.
hard to hear, so if you can amplify your voices, that would be great, thank you.
it says if it becomes a deliberation when if the first person were to reply all, if someone else, if other people are replying all after
Okay.
that.
All right.
The first one's okay.
All right. All right.
I'm gonna just do that blind copy trick, that way when they
I
reply
just
back.
think
I'm doing it.
you're skating on it, especially when people are concerned about that. You just, to me, why? You know, why do it? But anyway, let's keep moving on a couple of these things. I wanted to just say, do you guys, you know that proxy voting is not allowed? Do you have a participation for remote? That would be a policy that you would have to, you could develop.
I've seen it in Troy, where they participate over the phone.
I think we have that in our.
Yeah, where they could participate over the phone.
So you don't do
video
it very
conference.
often, it hasn't happened too
We've,
much.
I've not seen it this
You
year.
cannot do secret ballots. You cannot do secret ballots, so don't ever get in a situation where it's like, hey, everybody write it down and pass it in, that type of
No,
thing.
we don't do that.
do that.
We don't do that.
Where it runs into it is for appointing a new board member. So if you were appointed and you were against 3 or 4 people, sometimes people don't want to hurt people's feelings, and so they want to secret ballot. Don't do that. Okay. So 4 votes is required. So even if you have 5 people at a meeting, you still need 4 votes. You can never pass anything with 3 votes.
No, the policy is clear on that. It says a majority vote.
This is
Yeah.
a law.
It doesn't matter.
Wouldn't even
Yeah.
matter if your policy said anything
Right.
different. You cannot pass anything without 4 votes. All right, so let's talk about the board president for a second. So we've been talking about it, but let's talk a little bit more. So you guys are electing him annually, right? Did you do that just in January?
Yeah.
So you should utilize the superintendent expertise at meetings. So you should not be afraid to say and defer to, and not defer, but like if something's up, you know, ask him to explain. You are facilitating the discussion. Now, I will say that generally, Mark, that means you're trying to get the voices in the room, you're trying to get everyone, but you are trying to be a facilitator. You're not trying to, you're not really controlling everything, you're trying to facilitate the board, bring everyone together. You do have authority. The board president has authority to call for recess. They have authority to call a member out of order. They have authority to decide who speaks. Bill?
The recess, when a member is determined to be out of order, I don't think there's anything in our bylaws or our policies. Robert's rules says that if the board president, the chair, wants to call a recess because of a member being out of order.
So he
Okay.
has to adopt it, he has to go to a vote.
So have you tried to do that, or have you just called a recess?
All recess.
Yeah.
Just calls
When
recess.
I go point of order, the person doesn't respond.
So what's going on with that?
Really?
If there's a
It's
situation,
way too long.
if
for
there's
all
a
that.
All
situation.
right. I don't want to get into that.
If there's a
Scratch
situation, we just need clarity. If there's a situation, whether it's in the audience or amongst each other, so people could cool down or whatever the case may be. He has called and
My
said we're gonna
understanding, I have not
recess.
read Robert's rules to that extent, but I would say normally what I have seen is the board president has authority to call a recess, and they have authority to run the meeting. And so they're saying, boom, 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 we're going to take a 5-minute recess, if everyone's okay with that, and then you go.
It doesn't have to say how long.
We have to vote on it, so if he calls a recess, we have to, somebody's got to support it, and then we have to vote on how long the recess is gonna be. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 7 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
I haven't seen it though.
No, I
it's not in our
haven't
bylaws.
seen it.
I don't know about
It's
that.
not in our bylaws, but it's in Robert's Rule of Order.
So if it's not in your bylaws, then it would, in my mind, it would defer to the board president running the meeting. The board president's in charge of the meeting. Now, I admit that your bylaws say you're gonna follow Robert's rules, but to that extent, I
But
don't know.
calling a recess has been a problem, so we vote to Robert's Rule of Order.
So how do you wanna do it? Let's decide. How do you wanna call a recess?
I think we should vote on it.
How do you wanna do it, Mark?
Do it the way we've been doing it. The meeting's out of order, I call recess.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like, does the rest of the board feel like you should vote on it, or is there a
It's gonna
need
be
to
the
vote on it?
majority against the minority, that's how this whole thing is gonna be. So it's not even worth asking. We should follow Robert's Rule of Order.
Mark,
What we
you
have
haven't
to
said
do,
much. Speak to me.
what we have to do is stop the bickering back and forth, but it's keep carrying on, okay? It is. You can ask anybody out here, the bickering, not one side, both sides. It's got to stop. Let's work together for the kids, for the residents, and let's get this moving straight.
Okay. So maybe you won't have to call any more recesses. Maybe you just do your own.
Well, what I told Neola, he said, when do you want to visit the bylaws? Because I said, we really have to have the bylaws visited. I mean, these are just old, And I'm like, listen, they have to adhere to this current board, so they all feel like, hey, they could refer to a book. So I did talk to Neola so we could have the bylaws, but I need us all together on that. It cannot be, and right now it's such a hot topic. If you can see, I just said, let me just wait until we're all cool, and then I'll present that for them to discuss.
It seems to me that it's, if things are out of order, that you want to take a little recess, you know? So whether the board needs to vote on it or the authority is given to the board president, it doesn't really matter. It's like, that's the common sense thing to do, is take a little recess, you know? But
But he's determining what is out of order. If a discussion has to keep going for people to understand, it needs to keep going. It can't just be, that's it. Well,
There's insults.
what about this idea?
Some-
What about this idea of having the committee of the whole? Maybe that'll help solve some of these problems.
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah.
pull stuff off the
Yeah, so
agenda
this-
if you don't feel like you've got
Right,
enough
so
questions.
if I honestly, I think if owning this, if I do a better job answering all these questions, then maybe there wouldn't be so much conflict, so
Yeah.
I need to do a better job.
Well, here's the thing too, you guys, is that the superintendent, you do have, if you guys would give him some say in this type of thing, if you feel like, you know what, Beth's asking some questions that I haven't quite got answered, and no one else is really saying anything, but you feel like I can do a better job with this, if you would give him the authority to say, hey, I will bring this back and answer these questions, that is a good, you're objective. The thing about the superintendent is we want him to be objective with the board. We do. And this is a learning thing, but is like I told you about that one guy with my board those years ago. He eventually became my board president. Even though he was 1 against the 6, eventually a couple years later, he was the board president. You never know what the board is going to do. And so we want to develop trust, and so you need to be objective and try to manage the whole board. Yes. Okay.
I'm
All
sorry?
right. We're going to take a little break just for a minute.
Do we have to say adjourn or
No,
recess?
I'm in charge. I'm taking a break for a minute.
That's the problem. Is when I know I said that different answers, different
And
answers.
some don't, and
It's hard
And
to
you know,
trust
and you
anything.
know how we know that is because someone will mention it at a meeting and we're clueless. So we need more information. I mean, that's it, we want to be
Well,
informed.
that could be a thing
That
that
was
we
because
can
I
do a better
picked up
job
a
with.
phone and called him, so I
But
knew
he,
the answer.
but he needs to tell everybody everything.
you gotta
It
tell
doesn't-
everybody.
But I do.
If
No,
he
there's
tells
not-
you
there is
or does
not-
something, he needs to tell us.
There's nothing that I share with one, that I email them all.
I've got that on
Just
here.
Barb
But if I
said
ask you a question about
For-
the agenda,
If someone calls me to clarify something,
on the agenda.
it's like when you call me to clarify something, if you call me to get a chair, you ask me for a chair, do I have to call the rest of the trustees and say,
But I
hey,
haven't-
Beth needed a chair?
Yeah, but I haven't. Like,
But
But
what
here's
I'm
the
saying
thing.
is, if someone calls me and says,
it's not that, it's when a board member mentions something and me and Bill look at each other like this, like the committee of the whole, we're like.
well,
yeah,
committee
but
as a whole just means the whole board,
Okay, but
because
No, we've never even, I've never even heard that. Now I gotta go back tonight and watch another.
it's just meeting, it's meeting as a whole board. It's meeting as a whole board because you said there's no trust. You said there's no trust, so if you meet as a whole board.
I think it's a good idea to do the committee of the whole. I think that's a good
I'll go.
idea.
Did talk about it at a board meeting.
No, I'm gonna
I'll
go
go
back
water.
and remind
Yeah, but we
you
did.
like I did
But we got rid of
for
the
2 months
finance
now.
committee. Got rid of,
I don't think I would spend as much time looking back as I would try to be looking
We
forward.
can't move forward unless there's trust. That's the problem.
But
with this
how do you
board.
build trust? You build trust by one thing after
You know
another.
what? There,
There's too much, see, this is good stuff. It's like, it's big,
For
this
example-
big, nice house.
for example, I'm gonna tell you about the whole officers, or the officers meeting. A meeting before that, we had a board member that resigned. So after that, after board meeting, we accepted a resignation of somebody else. I don't know, a week or two later, we had officers meet. But that same night of that meeting, they went to dinner with, 4 of them went to dinner.
That was social. It was all social.
They got 4 of them went to dinner with the person that they picked. No offense, wherever he is. They went to dinner with him, and then the very following week, they chose him above all the other.
You're assuming. You're assuming.
It doesn't matter. The trust is not here already, and then this
So
happened.
what we need is better process on some of these
What about when you
things.
corrected her answers?
There was no.
It doesn't
Just like
matter.
business, it's all about
When there's
presentation.
no trust,
And when you
when
give,
and nothing
I
against
would
Mark.
lack trust, when you give
Nothing
this
against Mark, I'm
presentation of something
saying-
that can look bad, people are going to assume it's bad.
Absolutely.
So when there's mistrust, to
I'm
rebuild
not saying
trust,
anything
just
about
like
that.
imagine you're in a relationship, and so you get cheated on. That trust has to be earned back from the other person by heart, right?
Yeah.
I can't. now,
Exactly, so
one thing
same
that
kind of
has
thing,
to
you
be
both
done is-
sides have to earn that trust
Yeah.
based on the heart.
Yeah.
So what do you feel
You
about
know,
that?
you gotta think
So
of
should I
it like a
trust
like a marriage.
Yeah,
So should I trust
Really?
him?
I think you're right.
So,
110%, you
I
really
don't,
gotta put
because
that
I
effort in.
can't.
And
That's
if
why I
you
think
don't,
everything has to be together at this point. There can't be any decisions.
No, that's
You
not
guys
true,
gotta
because
start
you
figuring
said
out
there
how
was
to
many
work
times
as a team to
Yeah.
push process forward, because process can't be addressed
then
if
you should.
things don't get aligned.
Yeah.
You
I
should.
know, it's happening to us
So who are
too,
you
not
guys?
just you.
Well,
If I do a better job.
Yeah, but you're always trying to take the rap. That's not how you're the problem.
If they don't trust me.
Okay.
no, I've lost my trust.
Right, but
You don't trust
listen,
us.
it's,
not at all.
it's
I'm
okay.
zero right now.
It's okay for me to hear that. So if that
He
doesn't
knows
trust
that.
me, and Bill
I
doesn't
haven't
trust
trusted
me,
him in 2 months.
You don't trust Angel either, Bill?
no, it's okay to say it, it's okay to say it.
Because it's hard to talk when
And want me to
hear
tell you
different
why?
stories about
Want me to
you.
tell
It's
you,
okay,
this
it's
is the
okay
other
to-
thing, this is the other thing, where that night, Mark told me to shut 4 times, and not one, not you, not one call that said,
Well, I'm glad you guys are.
But it's hard to respond that fast
stop,
to
no.
things that are
It's
happening.
been, you know how many months it's been?
But it's hard to respond on a dime.
Never gonna bring
Like
this
you-
one together.
No, it's
That's
just,
the bottom
it
line.
takes work
It's
to
never
build
going to
trust.
happen.
It takes work to build
I mean,
trust.
no, seriously though, not one of you called and said, I apologize, and then all of you assumed I called the channel 7. Not one of you, not one, especially you, did not call and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you
Oh.
did.
Yeah, but you were right there.
The
when
one
you told
thing
me
I
to
would
shut up 4
say
times too.
is
You didn't say
you
anything
want to try to
wrong.
build
Also heard one of your
on some
friends.
things that you can build.
One of my
on. So I
friends?
like this
Well,
idea.
somebody
of
that's
being
on your
able to
side.
get
You don't know who's on my side out there.
And I think,
No, you don't.
I think more
She
meetings
calls my nephew
together.
right in front of everybody.
Who did?
Yeah.
If people like.
I told Debbie,
I
I told
don't-
Debbie for
Randy, I don't even know
strategic
Randy.
planning.
I do not even know
I said,
her.
strategic, I said for strategic
No.
planning, I needed,
I know
because that's what I wanted to do.
She's a
Yeah,
parent.
you can do that.
For
She's on the news the next day talking about how
I
bad,
didn't call
how
her.
bad, I'm sorry, how bad it was for him to tell you to shut up against in front of kids. She could tell him that he's having a joke.
You know what, you're saying that, I know her and I put her up there. I didn't do that.
Still talking out.
No, he said that.
Well, if you don't know, I apologize.
You know,
for saying
Yeah, I
that.
mean,
You know
if I
what's-
did, I would tell you, like.
You know what's funny is
I apologize
everyone,
for saying that.
everyone
You don't
here, I
know.
know we're not getting along and I know the public sees that, but everyone here loves the kids, like if you talk about it, everyone here loves the kids and
I can
they,
hear
You
you.
know,
So,
I'm in the business for the same reason. I love the profession. I love the board members.
Nothing
I
was
feel
discussed
a
at that
very
dinner.
Good
Oh,
passion.
before you got nominated by Bill.
Understand different process.
No, nothing.
Different things.
No.
And I
Except
just
for
really
dogs.
I would love to see you guys build trust together and start working on certain things. Like one thing, like besides this committee of the whole, like that's talking about goals. Starting to talk about goals, you know, there are things that you can do that you can come together on. I really believe that. I really believe
The
that.
problem is getting all 7 together.
Well, you just do it little by little.
Unfortunately, there's conflicts between board meetings.
Yeah.
Schedules.
So it's little by little, but you're all here.
this is awesome today.
You're all here.
I mean, I know there's disagreements, but I think we're all here together, which is.
You are all here. So let's keep it going, and I'm gonna finish it up here. I'll finish as soon as you want me to, but, so the point about this one, Angel, is you are not supposed to try to handle conflict between members. And so sometimes if there is conflict and you can't handle it either, you might get a third party involved, or you might get another board member, or the vice president might do it. I mean, but generally the rule is you should not be trying to handle any conflict between members.
What about a mediator? Yeah, I was just.
Yeah.
I've asked for mediators before.
Yeah. So that's
Does
somebody like
MASB
me. You know,
have-
yeah, that's somebody like me that would come in and talk about things or work on things. Yes. You know, I have actually done it before. This is out of order too. If you felt like the audience is responding out of order, you would call that. You appoint members to committees if you have, you don't have that. You should be reviewing the board agenda. You should be thinking about board development, and other people can too, but this is part of the leadership role. And then ultimately, though, the board is governed by the majority of the board. So, like for example, if some people, I can just point over here, think that you're not doing it right, they could make a motion or they could say something, and if the other people agreed, you know, then you would have to respond for the majority of the board. That makes sense, right? Everyone knows that. So like, for example, on the agenda issue, if you wanted to add something to the agenda, you could ask the board president at the beginning of the meeting, hey, I want to make a motion to add this to the agenda. You know, you allow that, and then if a majority agreed, or you just allow it to be added to the agenda. I mean, there's things you can do, but in the situation where, you know, the majority wants something, you would go along with the majority.
Excuse me. I have another question.
Yeah.
Adding things to the agenda.
So,
Wouldn't a good way to do it be, if I wanted to add something, if I wanted to, here's the agenda, having a meeting, and I don't see what I'd like to have on it. Wouldn't it be a good practice for me to ask for that to be added, but possibly for the next meeting?
yes.
So that it doesn't
Absolutely.
open a can of worms where everybody else
Here's
doesn't know
what
why
I think
want this
about
on
the agenda. I want to say this, and I mean this sincerely. I do not like to change the agenda the night of the meeting. And there's a reason why. It's because no one is prepared for the change. The public or the people on the board. So I don't even have on my agendas, I don't have approval of the agenda because the agenda is already set in my mind. You know, so the reason we don't add stuff the night of the meeting is because nobody's prepared
That's
for
right,
it.
that's what I've
What
heard.
if you send an email to superintendent board president 2 weeks before board meeting, and it still doesn't get put on it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Here's I want to handle that in another, I want to remember that question. I've got another slide I want to handle that. So obviously norms, you could have a whole session on norms. And I'm not going to try to do that today. Here are some examples of various norms that you could do. You know, like the idea of portraying a positive image, praise in public, criticize in private, professionalism, you know, don't have your own agenda, be willing to work with the team, you know, trusting each other, board chair gives respect and facilitates, round robin, I talked about that. Board members listen to and allow the board chair to facilitate the meeting. These are norms that you have as a group. And that would be one session you could actually spend some time on things that you wanted to think about if you wanted to do more. Let me go into this next one. And we've kind of talked about this already. But how do you discuss issues? What's professionalism? How do you disagree and yet maintain respect and a proper tone? You know, this is the whole thing with maybe this committee of the whole will help you get your meetings so you feel like they're on better track. But the idea is to allow everyone to have an opinion and still try to reach consensus. And I can see that you're having trouble with that, and there's some issues there. But I would say the one big thing is, besides trusting each other, is that all board members are equal and deserve respect. And the board president is elected to facilitate the meeting. So to me, those things are not in conflict. And I don't know what else to say other than that. Anything anybody wants to say? Yes.
I think what I've witnessed as a board member is that we don't always respect each other when we want to disagree. We don't respect the president as our president. We may not like him as a person. We may not like his personality. But we need to respect position when he's running.
Yeah, I mean, I
Don't
agree,
disrespect.
and I agree with respecting the other side too,
And
and the
and
same with
vice
the
versa
superintendent.
back to us.
Yeah,
And why did we stop the stop?
Okay, no, careful, remember why. It's not like I haven't met you, you learned
No,
about
go
this.
ahead.
No, you go ahead and tell me, I know why I lost respect. Board president.
well,
A lot of philosophical differences, a lot of personality.
Well,
And
it's-
assumptions
Well,
too.
And it's, we're worrying about past administration, past board stuff, when we need to be moving forward. Things have been said to board members and different things have been told to board members.
All kinds of denial.
hang on just a second, so,
See, that's what
the,
happens.
so what were you gonna say in response to
I'm
that?
saying we're having to deal with the past, we're dealing with a whole bunch of denial.
It's not denial.
Budgeting, our fund balance,
Okay,
That's not true. It's not denial about things that have happened, but Mr. Gillihan just said to Bill, when Bill questioned something, he said, well, Bill, what did you do about it when you were on the board before? So board president says, well, Bill, you're questioning this, but you never questioned it back when you were on the board in the past. So we're questioning because we need knowledge. If things, bad practices happen, we'll question it. It doesn't mean that Bill has to throw in his face that him and board president.
I wasn't trying to throw it in his face. I was trying to see what past practice has been. That's the difference.
But you
Yeah.
see
That's
how-
the difference. I was asking for, he was on the board for 9 years, so I said, what were you doing before?
So
Trying to
what
understand,
practice? You was-
no, I was trying to understand past practice, because I've only done this for a year. I was trying to understand what has been done before. That's not an attack on Bill.
I can understand that, and then I can also see how the perception was not good about it, but that's where the trust, we have to start expecting the best from people and assuming good intentions. But it's not there right now, but it can be there, but here's the thing I keep hearing you guys say, and I mean this sincerely, I really think you have to start moving forward and not looking back. I mean, there's some issues that happened back there. Yes, something happened between you two. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I want to ask for forgiveness and do a group session, but I am saying that you guys are here, you're professionals, you're here for the kids. I mean, how do you move forward? How do you move forward? And some of these things I'm giving you on these slides, they're good materials. And you can take a piece or two of it, and I know you're listening and you're thinking about how can I help facilitate this board? Because one of your jobs as the board, as the superintendent, is development of the board. It is your job that's on your evaluation to how do you help the board develop. And you've got 2 or 3 new ones or whatever, a couple people with.
We have 5. There's
Yeah,
5
a lot of new ones.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, so the 5, we have questions. So it's not about not thinking that we're in denial. First of all, we have to know what we're in denial about. We don't know.
So maybe the
We need more
majority
information
needs
about what you think we're in
to
denial
slow
about.
down a little bit. Maybe you need to have a little more information, a little thoughtful, more thoughtful. So this idea of consensus, getting to consensus, trying to develop thoughtful, thorough recommendations, including context and history, allowing discussion, not cutting it off. If there's too many questions, put off the decision. Allow administration to work on the details. Don't you guys try to do the details. You need him to do the details. He's the guy that's management. And then on the contentious issues, you're trying to work to what can we live with? What can we live with? I mean, I had a situation one time where I was doing, we were cutting half-day kindergarten. So, I mean, we were dealing with a lot of budget cuts, as you have probably too. And half-day kindergarten was a big deal back in the day. And we were going to go to all-day, alternate day, right? But we were going to do three days a week. I mean, you would have thought that we were selling the kids into slavery. I mean, we had hundreds of people at the board meetings. People were crying and carrying on. And we listened to it. And we developed a thoughtful response like, okay, we'll keep half-day open if you transport. That was our compromise. And so eventually, we had one section of half-day for that next year, and then the next year, nobody wanted to do it, and we went to all-day alternate day. I mean, there's things that you can do to try to develop consensus, but it was a 5-2 vote, I admit, but eventually those two supported the board in the decision of that situation. So that's the thing at the bottom. And I really believe this. You guys are on a board. You're not individuals running for office. You're a board member on this board. You make your case, you do your things, and then ultimately you support the decision of the board. But we have to build the trust here between the parties. Yes?
Well, like it says, work toward coming up with something you can all live with. Well, first of all, I don't want to hear about something when I come to a board meeting and I have more questions and they don't get answered, and then it gets voted 5-2.
Yeah, so we're going to work on that. We're working on that. We're going to work on that one. I think we talked about some of this stuff, but I want to go over it real quick. We talked about agenda development. How is it distributed? So I said, remember, like Thursdays you give it to them, Fridays you might post it publicly.
Yeah.
You know, then if board members have questions, they should feel free to call you, email you, you get back to them. At the meeting, you know, how do you set up your meeting space? How do you set up your arrangement? Now, one thing I noticed when I watched one of your meetings, it felt like you were sitting down further, not towards the middle. I don't know how you set up, but a lot of times the way I see them set up is the board president and superintendent are kind of by each other. Are you doing it that way? I see it that way now. I don't know exactly why, but it's just so you can utilize that expertise of the superintendent occasionally when you run into difficulties. Obviously, it's a board meeting.
My issue is you want me to be objective, and anytime I do anything, I get attacked, or you side with one, you side with another, or you do this. I sat by the superintendent one time, it was just done. You would think the world ended, okay? You think the world ended. Oh my gosh, he's sitting next to the board
Let me
president.
tell you
So
why.
then I said, okay, fine. I
I'll sit
moved
at
my
the
chair
edge.
all the way, because you can't win. If you sit here,
What do you think?
But let me tell you why. If you watch, the video that was sent to you was probably censored, first of all. But second of all,
I just got on your website,
But
watched a
second
couple.
of
I
all-
watched when you were board president too,
okay, so,
back in like 15 or something.
he was more.
in our board, in our,
Al
Looked
was
like
out.
it.
I was vice president, and Al was gone.
I didn't catch it. I just recognized
in
you.
our meetings, often, there's whispering going on, and notes being passed. Yes, there is. Watch the
Well,
videos.
don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay,
I
but
just say
there's
don't.
whispering, like turning heads, or someone said yes to a vote, and then, no, that's not what you meant, no vote, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
The public truly doesn't really hear everything because the
They don't hear.
mics are terrible. And if they don't speak directly to the mic, so if they turn, no one can hear them. And that is true. That is like, I heard that from everyone.
So let's improve
Yeah,
our
we're working on it.
protocols.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about, Beth. And so I'm just saying, the reason I would put the board president and the superintendent kind of side by side. The board president's running the meeting, but the superintendent is often talking about the various options that are being debated. And so it feels like when you're on the end, it feels a little funny to me. That's all. I just would say that's something to think about. But you just want to think about your setup, because your setup influences your protocols. And I agree that you should not be passing notes, you should not be texting, you should not be doing any of that stuff. And I know you agree with me on that. Pledge, roll call. All right, so this was the thing I was mentioning about agenda. I don't think you should be making changes to the agenda the night of because of the preparation for everybody. That's just the thing. And then following the agenda, you know, that's just normal protocol. All right, keep going?
We got to see, how you guys doing
Oh,
on
we gotta do it
time?
on time.
We're
Keep
good?
going.
It's 6:24.
I only got 2 votes.
All right, you guys use a consent agenda.
15 minutes.
I've got a few more.
15.
You got a consent agenda? Did you use a consent agenda?
On the policy book, it's there, but I've never seen it. I would love to go to a consent agenda, but
It's not.
it's in a policy handbook. It's in our policy book, but it's not utilized.
It must be one that I'm missing out of mine.
It's in there, like, HR report, check registry is there, but no one utilizes it.
So the consent agenda is just for routine items.
Yeah.
Anyone can pull anything off. The reason is to just facilitate the expeditious, a little bit better
Yeah.
meeting, minutes, some policies, certain things that are just routine.
There's a list on the
Yeah,
policy book.
Yeah. But you can pull it off if you don't want to have it.
My personal opinion is that public comments should come at the end only because our parents are hearing things just like you at the meeting currently. So they should be able to speak out and someone needs to respond back to them. Nobody ever responds back to them. Sometimes they get an answer in a meeting, somebody will speak out to them, but they never get anything back.
It's usually not good protocol to try to answer right off the cuff.
I understand that, but
But
somebody.
then you need to get back to them, so that's becomes your job.
But I do believe somewhere in our bylaws or our policies, it does say that that's their time to speak. They are not to address us individually, and that we are not to respond.
No, but somebody needs to respond back to a parent that comes up and has
Yeah, like the
concern.
next day.
The next
You could
day.
probably
Yeah.
offer to speak to them outside.
Yeah,
so.
call them after, call them, no. Call them. So, so this was the thing, this is what you're starting to do with the committee of the whole.
Yeah.
So that's good. Action items, superintendent provides background, the board president asks for a motion, discussion items, you open for discussion. I mean, these are just protocols to follow. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving. Now, this is a slide that just kind of tells you, can you use your board meetings for good? I think you can use your board meetings for good. And one way is to have academic spotlight,
We do students of the month.
perfect.
Yeah.
Then you've got your reports. So this is the one, Beth, you were asking me earlier about. So I think board calendar is a good thing to put on an agenda, and here's why. This is what Barb was saying. You've got some topic, but it's going to be on a future agenda. So the board calendar is like a monthly kind of like what's coming up for things for the board. So you've got something you're interested in, so you say at the board meeting, can we put this on a future agenda? You say, yeah, no problem, April's pretty good. I mean, this is how you can operate with your whole board being able to get, so what did this mean for me? It was like athletics, someone to say, hey, we haven't heard much about athletics lately, could we get a report on athletics? Yeah, let's put that in April. Oh, special ed, what about that new program we did last year? So instead of asking the question that night and you having to respond, you're putting it on a future agenda so you can actually prepare a
So
report.
how do I respond if I get bombarded with questions that I'm not prepared to answer?
At a board meeting?
Yeah. Can I say, can I get back to you? I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
caught me
yes,
off guard.
yes, you can, but that's the whole point of having this type of thing on your board agenda. This allows you to actually prepare and put things that people are interested. This allows the board to have involvement in the agenda process just for reports. Now, again, the board's job is to get reports from the superintendent. If it's too management-like, then it might not be appropriate for the board agenda. So you have to frame it differently.
The
Yes.
reason I believe Mr. High gets so many questions is because it's dropped on our lap. So we can't, how can, doing our due diligence, how can we vote on something we're not completely,
If the questions are on a topic that's on the
No,
agenda.
they're not. The bombardment that I feel sometimes, if advertisement is not even on the agenda, and then I got bombarded with advertisement. It wasn't even on the agenda at all. It came out of nowhere.
Board comments, right?
board comment.
Yeah.
But it was my board comment.
But board comments turned into grill Mr. Abdullah.
Yeah.
It wasn't board
Because
comments.
they never
It
did
was-
answer.
You have to be able to give the superintendent time to respond. I mean, in a future
It's
point.
been 2 meetings. I'm still not getting answers.
But the first time you bombarded me, it was.
No, I didn't. That was last meeting I did.
No, in January's meeting, or
Yeah.
January, February, you asked me about CNG the first time out of nowhere.
That's because it wasn't, I didn't find Barbara.
It was out of nowhere.
It was
And so-
questioning the budget.
Your answer might be, we need to do some research, I'll get back to you. And then when you get back to her, you're getting back to the whole board. You're gonna answer that question that Beth asked this question at the last board meeting, here's what my response is,
It was approving.
in an update.
But listen,
No,
I'm
it was
okay.
it was approving the check registry, and I did not want to pay C&G because I had
Oh,
questions.
you didn't know what it was?
No,
No,
I
she
knew what it
knew.
was, but we were,
She was
It was
calling me
about
out. This is where we
advertising.
have to be out, we have to own it, right? So she was calling me out for false advertisement.
right.
We have to speak the truth. I'll
Right.
own it when I'm wrong. She was calling me out for false advertisement.
Not him particularly, just.
But yeah,
in
it was me.
in
It's
CNC
okay.
news, If we were saying we had
It's
stuff we
okay.
don't have this book.
It's okay.
Okay.
So she called me out for false advertisement because there wasn't something that it was advertised, right? So my thought on it is, if you see me gonna step into a puddle of water, and if we're gonna work, help me out.
Yeah.
Like say, Angel, don't step in that puddle of water. Don't wait for me to do it and say, oh, see, I got you. That's all I'm asking
No,
for.
it
If we're
wasn't,
gonna
I
work.
got you, is I sent an email, or I asked before, a meeting before, I'm not approving the budget.
I just honestly-
because CNC was on there.
Okay.
I
If
want us to
don't
work
get-
together. If you're gonna
If I
see,
don't get the answers that I need, how can I approve something?
Here's-
So, and nobody answers my emails back, it's frustrating.
I answered it.
Well, we need to answer, the emails back.
I answered emails.
But I will
They
say,
go on all day long.
I will say that publicly, I don't think it's good policy for board members to ask questions that the superintendent is gonna be ambushed by. And this is where I'm at on this. This is what the board calendar's for. So you have this spot on the agenda where people can ask questions, but it's put on a future agenda. And if it's a question about the bills, you need to ask it before the board meeting if possible, and you need to answer, of course. But that's what I'm saying.
But it was to stop the payment to C&G News, and then it was in discussion. It was to stop that advertisement payment.
I'll accept that, but I felt ambushed.
Okay.
And it's okay,
I
it's
felt
okay.
ambushed that they want me to vote on something that I don't have enough information.
And I'll fix that, but I will make
We have
sure
to
that
keep
you
working
have
on
it-
that. We gotta
everything
get the right
beforehand,
information to people.
before
All right.
every board
I'm gonna
meeting,
keep
you will
moving.
have it.
I want to talk about communication for 1 minute, and then we're going to get out of here. So, Angel, you're doing regular updates,
Yeah,
and you're not being dishonest
I got no
with each other.
secret agendas, no hidden agendas.
If you have an emergency, you have a protocol for handling emergencies.
Emergencies like building closures or
It could be anything, like lockdown. or,
Yeah.
He sends us,
Yeah.
Okay. And complaints, so this is for board members. You should not be telling people that you'll handle a complaint. You are not the administrator. And so you need to try to get the person to the right level of where they need to go. So you listen to them and then you say, have you talked to the teacher? Have you talked to the coach? That type of thing. Now, there's reasons for this, of course. And one of them is the fact that you're supposed to be objective. So if you get involved in a complaint, you're not being objective. And there's a lot of case law in other places where board members that have gotten into this have gotten in trouble. So it's obvious that it's best on the closest level to the concern. You're trying to be supportive of the complainer and the complainee. I mean, you're objective. You're not taking sides. And there's always another side to the story. So
It's one phone call of what I said at that time was there is a change.
right.
Go to the lowest person first, whoever started it, go up.
And sometimes they say they've already talked to everybody. And it's not quite true. But either way, it's still not your job as an individual board member to try to help them in that regard.
So, this happens to me all the time because I have a kid
Right.
in the school. I always say, principal, or if they come back to me, the superintendent. The problem still lies that they say, nobody has gotten back to me. So that's why I think that it's a good idea if a parent contacts superintendent or principal, they let us know so they can't keep coming back. And parents say, nobody replies back to me. Nobody, I'm not saying that Mr. Dillon does that, But we should
I
be-
take that offensive because
No, I'm not saying
I put
you-
my phone number, I know, but I'm just saying, I'm offended by that because I put my phone number on the website.
See,
I'm just telling you that I feel
I'm
like,
not offending you, I'm saying
Well,
that this is
here's-
why we need to be
Here's
told
what I would say.
that
You-
this is happening.
It's good to have follow-up and follow-through. So let me just say how I think you should do it. So somebody talks to you, and they say they've got this problem, and you say, hey, have you talked to the coach? Have you talked to the principal? Blah, blah, blah. So then they come back a week later and say, yeah, I tried talking to the principal didn't call me back. You know, then I think you can tell Angel, and you can say, hey, this one parent said the principal didn't get back to them. Now then you're helping, you're talking to the principal, saying, hey, did you get back to this person? So if you find out that they got back to him, then you talk to her and say, hey, she didn't get back to him.
Tell the whole board, I mean, in his updates, Friday update or whatever.
Well, it depends on how many situations you want to have, but generally, you don't carry the water for the person. The person needs to carry their own water. But if your team is not getting back to people, and you need to dispel that, you might need to do a little work with making sure people get back to people and responding. That's all.
And you know, I always.
I know you do. She always says
I always do,
follow.
and I always try to
Yeah.
let him
So
know.
you just got to tweak it a little bit and don't, this happens everywhere. This happens everywhere, so you just have to be. Now here's another thing. Yeah, Mark.
I would say in the last 2 years, or here in 3 months since I've been in this position, I've got phone calls, including emails. But didn't get the answer they liked. So they come to a board member. And I've always told them the same thing. You don't get phone.
Right.
That's it.
You can't as an individual. You cannot as an individual do anything. You are not a problem solver. You are a problem redirector. You hear about the problem and you redirect the person to where they should be going. And you're not, yeah, that's exactly right. The other thing to not say, don't say put it in writing. That's an escalator. You want to just try to redirect them to where they should go. You also don't want to answer email complaints by an email. If it's obviously we answer emails all the time, but it's not complaints. When it's a complaint, they see it differently, and it's not a good way to go. So you listen. Thank you for talking to me. Have you talked to the supervisor? That's your style. So this is for you. In terms of answering questions, you should not feel like you have to know the specifics of everything in the district. You would handle it the same way. You refer them to the source of the information. You don't need to feel like you need to know everything. This is social media. I'm not going to go into social media. This is, I put a couple of scenarios on here. I mean, basically, in every situation, you're redirecting, and that's what you are, as a redirector. You know, that's what you really are. So the last couple slides are just general ethics and protocols. You know, obviously, you have some issues that you need to keep working on. I think the way to do it is to just keep trying to build the trust little by little and move forward with things. Try to get some of the stuff that's behind us and not worry about it as much. Obviously, the idea of being honest and respectful, no surprises, acknowledging mistakes, being respectful of confidentiality, following the chain, treat each other respectfully, contact the superintendent when you need information. You know, that's your general thing. What are you committing to as a board member? Here's my mantra. You're committing to the long-range plan, so obviously you need to work on that. You're committing to being open and keeping emotions or biases in check. You're not making promises as an individual, remembering the full authority rides with the full board. You commit to support the final decision of the board, which I know can be tricky. And then you commit to governance improvement and board member development. I mean, that's kind of my speech to you. So, that's my story. I'm sorry I went a little long, but
I'm going to send you guys an email. If you guys want to do it Friday.
so any questions you want to?
But we have to do public comments.
Yes.
I don't want
Public comments.
any violations.
Right, let's do it.
I know it is a parent, but I actually have a question. For, what's his name, Rod?
Rod.
the board's relationship with parents?
Well, the board members are kind of like a liaison between the community and the district. So they should feel free to talk to parents, listen to parents, but they need to remember that they are the governance team, not anything like a problem solver for parents.
So, for instance, when I moved into this district, and I'm not lying,
You can't do Friday. I missed
Stand up and speak a little bit louder.
So, as soon as I get, as soon as I became an involved parent, I was like automatically labeled as having a side. That, I feel like that is a big issue in our district. This person has a side, that person has a side. And I'm not going to speak for all parents, but I know that some parents feel that we're automatically put into a group that may not always agree with one side of the board or the other. That may not necessarily be the case. I may agree with something that the other side has to say, or I may not agree with the side that I'm labeled as having a side with. So I don't feel like, I just feel like as a parent, I'm not always heard by the entire group. I feel like sometimes there's intimidation on parents' behalf, or on parents, my board members. We don't always feel comfortable coming forward and saying things in fear of we might be told you can't do something, or you may not be able to hold this position where you're at volunteering, or there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of this is your side, that's your side. And Mr. Holcomb, I appreciate what you said with coming together and working together for the kids, because ultimately we're here for the kids. And I'm not trying to pick on you, but 2 minutes later you said, well, that parent was on your side. So it's like, as a parent, we are being labeled as having a side because certain board members may support us more than what other board members support us. So of course, if I feel supported by, say, Bill, I might feel more comfortable speaking to Bill. But because I'm speaking to Bill, I'm being labeled as having a side. So that's not really fair to parents, especially parents who are here to do what's best for the kids. So I don't know what your suggestion is going forward for that, but I feel like there's no going forward for parents if we're continuously labeled as having a side just because our views may align with certain board members. We should feel comfortable speaking however we want to speak.
I agree with you. I obviously do. And I would have to say that the roles have been reversed as well. Certain board members have also been labeled as followers or whatever. We haven't been given a chance to prove ourselves.
We're not elected officials.
No, I know you're not.
And I'm not saying that, I feel like everybody has been treated unfairly at some point, but I am not an elected official. I am a parent. Without my children, without the children, this district is not operating. If parents feel attacked, if parents feel intimidated, if parents feel threatened, if parents feel like they don't or cannot have a voice, whether they're on PTO, whether they're on boosters, whether they're just a parent that drops their kids off and picks them up at the end of the day, that's not okay. That's not okay.
And I'm gonna be closer to parents because I'm in the school. I'm in the school and I'm at all the activities and all the football games and I'm in everything. So of course parents are gonna be closer to me because they see me and then they get mistreated.
I think what we want to do is try to bring everyone together, and so we appreciate, I'm sure the board appreciates your comments, Mark.
You're right, I did say that, I apologize, and I apologize to her for saying that. You are right, I will work on that.
Everybody can, I think, work on some things to try to build the relationships and bring it together, So,
Can I say something?
yeah.
Board members are often criticized very much for
Yeah.
not attending school events.
Okay.
And what is your take on that? I mean,
Well,
I've been told that I've never been at things, and I have.
I'm sure you have been.
But
I
not to
think
the
that
extent that these people
Yeah.
would like to see my face.
people are at different stages in their life, and I'm sure Beth probably goes to more things than somebody
Well,
else.
that's
doesn't
not our
have.
job, is it, to be any?
No, I mean, your job is governance of the district, and
It's
so,
the governance of the district.
so if I can speak,
How can you?
it's nice to be able to do some events and to be
Exactly,
knowledgeable
to be
about some
supportive,
things and
but
be
it's not
supportive,
part of the
but
job.
it's not paramount because you have different people at different stages. So you want some people to do more events than other people, that's fine. You can all be together on that, yeah.
Okay, but my point of this is their votes, it's easier to vote for things that are against for the kids if you're one of the parents or the ones that are going and actually seeing the kids. So I feel board members should make it a point to get out, meet some parents, meet some kids, so when they're voting, they can also see that it's affecting the children's lives.
Sure.
That
And
go
that's
to
a
this
good,
district.
I mean, that could be something that you talk about as a board and make it as a board goal. Like you're gonna try to get a little more involvement and how are you gonna divvy it up and things like that. I mean, those are good strategies, yeah.
Let me say this, and I've said it many times. This community, this Madison district is an older community now, right? It seems like the voters way outnumber the parents. So, like you people, and I'm sorry, I mean the new people. The new people were voted in by the voters, and which is how you get your position here on this board. But these people that are the parents are the ones that I've been here 9 years. Those are the ones I know probably more than the voters. So I think if you don't get to know the parents and get with them, it doesn't matter how many votes you get, there's not going to be a school district here for you to be a board member of.
Those are some good
Yeah,
points.
And not only that,
Some of us raised our kids in this.
Right, but how long has it been?
Yeah, let's do the public comment and there was one more.
Yeah. I was gonna wait till, next week Monday's meeting for a few things, but I think you're interested in now, maybe I can help you guys out a little bit. So I'm gonna come up here. Number one, you're forward for public comment. I would advise you to put on there that it's optional for name, phone number, those kind of things. I believe you can take their name, but the rest of the information is optional as far as how much they want to provide. Now, when a body meets, such as a meeting like this, whether you call it a workshop, seminar, whatever it is, whatever Mr. Abdullahan wants to call it, you're a public body when you meet. You have to make sure wherever the public you provide, which includes a camera that somebody's holding, if I'm just sitting in my seat and holding my phone, that is concerning another citizen. You have to be able to provide either, like meeting tonight here, really should have had the microphone set up so people that would even sit in that back corner would hear somebody over here who's talking very, very well like this, over in that corner. That is why I'm speaking very loud right now. There were multiple times in this meeting that if I was an OMA lawyer, that you guys would have been violating the Open Meetings Act, turning to each other, talking where somebody else was talking, where the public is not hearing every single thing of what you guys are saying, okay? Just want to be clear, Open Meetings Act, very important. There's a lot of things besides what I'm talking about tonight that you guys are violating the Open Meetings Act. The only reason why I'm bringing it up is I've reviewed your past meetings, I've looked at a lot of things, you're violating a lot, which tells me that you guys have not had a OMA education at all. I understand with respect to Mr. Green, that you showed one slide and covered it a little bit. I'm going to give this to you, Mr. Abdullahan. That is a law firm that trains boards and councils on how to do Open Meetings Act. And it isn't just one slide, they do 90 slides on the Open Meetings Act alone. It's about 2 to 3 hours, great presentation. I'd advise you, if you don't know the act, get it, because number one thing, you'll be with your violations. If somebody is to bring a suit against you, you don't want that, okay? Speaking to the microphone, like Mr. Abdullah had said, if you can't do it at the meeting, naturally, I went to Specs Howard. This is why I'm talking about microphones and setup. Number one, speak into it. Once you turn your head, that's an omnidirectional mic. It receives sound waves that come towards it. You can't expect it if your waves are going this way that the mic's going to pick it up. Grab it and hold it, okay? The other thing, with all due respect, I totally understand you probably don't have the training that I do with media production. When you have somebody sitting at a camera like that, right now and watching it, they're making sure everything's on camera, right? Okay, but right now, just sitting and watching, that camera has a headphone jack. If you notice, any camera crew usually have a video tech and an audio tech. That audio tech is gonna wear headphones. What they're doing, the audio tech is fully responsible for monitoring the audio. That person should, if you just have one person doing it, she should have headphones on. Because with all due respect, Mr. Kimball, if you wonder why people are recording at the meetings, if you review your past meetings, as a matter of fact, your August meeting, 46.9% of that meeting was unheard audio that was unlegible on the recording. So I want to let you know that. People, the general public, if you think your videos are really doing them just, they're not. I'm just here to try to help you guys so you see what's going on and why people are frustrated. If you can just tweak a couple things, it will work so much better. I want you guys to work with this team. I don't want to fight against you, but I'm also somebody that looks and researches and does things. I've been in business for a long time. I'm not boasting me, but I just want to help, okay? One other thing. I'm going down here, and I know I'm just got to be quick. But with all due respect, you did give her equal time, and you did give approximately 4 minutes last year. I am trying to help you, so please, this is good information. Okay, so, with regards to participating remotely, they did challenge the law. Some people didn't want to challenge the law and say, hey, you can sit, you have to be at the meeting. Where that law didn't stand up was places like in the Upper Peninsula, where there was a school district counting 2 or 3 counties. What I've told by a OMA attorney is the reason why they didn't do that, you could participate remotely, is middle of winter, they wouldn't even have board meetings because they're driving 50, 100 miles in the middle of the snow, okay? But he did advise, if you can't attend, don't rely on being there remotely, be there in front of everybody. The training, and then on top of it, Ms. Castle, you did bring up respecting others, and I truly agree, you all have to show respect to each other. But remember, there are kids at that meeting. Somebody's saying something, but no matter what they say to the microphone, that's the First Amendment right. As long as it's not a personal attack on your character, as long as I don't say somebody is a you-know-what, I can talk about their actions. But somebody walking away from a microphone going, bye-bye, isn't the most appropriate thing. Also, I would hope that if you have toothpicks in your mouth, if you have gum in your mouth, we ask kids when they're standing in front of the class to do the same thing. If you're speaking in front of the general public, I think you should too. And finally, respect the First Amendment. Those 3 minutes are the most important 3 minutes to that person. Interjecting, commenting, or any of that is violating somebody's First Amendment rights. You can't do that. Unless it's a personal attack, you cannot gavel them. Direct personal attack. Okay? So I just want to be clear. I am here fighting for the people because, yes, I got upset last meeting. Don't take away the people and the public's rights. You guys work for us. Okay? I appreciate it. I'm trying to do my best, my due diligence, to help you guys get in line. At the same time, I'm not going to accept any more of, I don't have kids in the district. So you can't come in and try to intimidate me. Okay? Do what you want to do. But all I'm saying is I'm here because I'm born a Libra, I'm the sign of the scales, and I don't like injustice. I'm one of those people, John Quinones, what would you do? Yeah, that's me, okay? So I wanted to help you. Please fix your camera operator, make sure your video equipment is good, abandon the First Amendment. You sure can, I appreciate it.
What was the discussion we had this last week about getting a much better camera, right?
He said your camera sucks, Mr. Abdul.
Well, it's not so much the camera, she should be.
Listen for a second. Board President speaking.
We've had this talk since you took over about the PA system. And we're looking for the money to get upgraded.
I respect that, but please speak into the mics, maybe no gum, try to speak clearly, all those words. Every single word needs to be heard by the public because when you're a body, you are working for us and we need to hear everything. No whispering across the floor, those kind of things, please.
We didn't, he just told me the camera sucks.
Or my husband that's out
He's
for why, if you want to help
Is that it?
you want to help the whole group, you want to help everybody here, you're not helping everybody by having a group that's opposed. with just certain people.
That is your opinion, and I totally respect your opinion.
Because if you want everyone
All right,
to get
then
along, I
respect
feel
your
like we're
opinion.
making a.
Let's talk outside about this outside of you.
Hang on. Board is still meeting. Mr. President.
We talked about like one of them.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks to everyone. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Yes. Debbie. And unanimous. Thank you, guys. Nice to meet you.